I miss 40s. Those were the days.
What? Hey, AJ's here. Okay, now we have four.
Figure this
Oh, this
out.
all switched. Yo,
What
okay,
is
I'm
this?
locking this
Alright.
so no one else can join. This app, well, like not to make bad puns, but it went kind of viral
Yeah, I
through the
heard.
virus. So I've been using it just to like hang out with people and catch up with people I haven't talked to in a while. It's been super nice, and it's there's no limit on it. So when I wanted to set up a Zoom chat for us to do this, it was like if you're gonna have more
Yeah.
than 3 people, you have a 40-minute limit. And I was like, well, I
Oh
don't.
wow.
Yeah, I
Oh
don't know.
no.
Yeah, cool. So everyone's
Oh,
here. Well, everyone that I invited, at least not everyone from the production, but everyone's here for this. Okay, cool. So I want to just like say hi to you guys because I miss you. And yeah, I am streaming this on YouTube on my channel right now. Nobody's watching, which is fine. So um, first, I will explain a little bit of why this is happening and why I invited you all to do this. One, because I just think it's cool. I think we haven't spoken really in a while. It's been almost exactly a year since we started the production officially of Pepperoni Ransom, Ava's Last Ride, Two Wrongs Don't Make a Ransom. Uh,
that
so
should just be the whole.
the
Yeah.
name, yeah, that's exactly. So yeah, I thought it'd be fun to like kind of reminisce and talk about it. And the reason this came up this week is because I stumbled across this document that was in my drive that said the title of the document was just what can go wrong, and I was like, what is that? And so so I clicked on it and I was like, and I see like pre-production and then all these like lines about things that went wrong. I'm like, oh, I took this like as we were doing the production and like a little bit after I was like writing all the things down that went wrong. So
Oh man.
yeah, because the reason I did that was because like AJ, the one thing that you said to me before we started was we had a call like maybe a week or two before things actually started production,
Happened.
and
Yeah.
you were like the most important lesson that I took away from film school was like what can go wrong will go wrong, and I was like I don't know man, but I'm like
Yeah.
I'm pretty prepared for this. I don't think that a lot can go
That
can go
doesn't.
wrong.
That does not matter.
Yeah, right.
So
Yeah,
then
Jesse learned it enough with even his music video shoot for early November.
Oh,
Sure.
yeah, that
ooh,
that was
Everything.
I'm excited. I want to talk about that too. So actually, what I want to do is like talk about the production, like talk about where things started and like how it went and how it ended, and then also just catch up with you guys and see like what you're working on and what you've done since the film ended, and also like talk about the status of the film because clearly it hasn't been published and it's still kind of just taking up space on my hard drive. So let's start with introductions in case anybody ever does watch this. Let's see who are you and what did you do for the film and like try to cover all the roles because you probably did a lot. So we'll start since the for me the top left corner is AJ, so we'll start with AJ.
Oh, name is Anthony or AJ or whatever. Somebody's gonna call me at any moment now. I was behind camera for the film, and I don't know what else I did. It's been quite some time.
Okay, well, yeah, okay, so it'll come out as we discuss it because you did a
We
lot.
all yeah, so.
Lost you guys for a second. Okay,
Oh,
okay, we'll come back. Aaron, it's your turn.
Okay. It's a different order than what I see on my screen. But yeah, I'm Aaron Palmer, and I was a second AC grip,
all the things.
first AC, advisor, motivator to the director.
Actor, mid.
Yeah, after.
so
Yeah.
everything's
Oh,
gonna
we're
be
gonna
okay.
talk about that. We're definitely gonna talk about that.
Yeah.
Okay, Jess.
Okay, my name's Jesse. I was the assistant director, so I handled all the scheduling, all the paperwork, anything with SAG that needed to get done. That was basically my role.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, that was the gist of it, but it was way more than that. Okay, so there was a idea that came to me in like January 2019. Yeah, wow, January 2019. Right after I got done writing my first feature script, I was like, I'm gonna do a short film script every day or every week or something stupid like that. And I created like a log lines channel on the Slack group that we were in. I don't know, AJ, if you were actually in that or not, but at least Aaron and Jesse were. And I was posting shit in there like every day as it would come to me. And then I had this idea for like a couple abducts a pizza delivery guy because they think he has millions in Bitcoin or something like that. And this idea came because a friend of mine that I traveled with for a little while, he had, before Bitcoin really exploded, before it was like, this is like 2010 or 11 or something, he had bought some Bitcoin, and he had like, I think it was an insane amount of coins that were worth nothing on a flash drive. And basically in 2016, there was a boom, and then it was worth all this money, and he was like, oh, I have some of that, and he could not find it. Like, he just lost this flash drive full of and like probably millions of dollars worth of Bitcoin gone. So that's like essentially where this idea came from, and I was like, I want to explore that with a character in like a tense situation, but like awkward and funny the way that I like movies. So then I put this in the Slack room, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna write this, and I wrote it, and it became something completely different. Like, it wasn't a married couple; it was like an old man all of a sudden, and like his French nurse, because the character of Natalie was not related to him at first. It was actually just like a sexy French nurse that I don't know why, but she was like she was like
I remember this part.
Yeah, because I don't think you were involved enough at that point to care to like want to read the script, and she was like an expat, and If you actually watched the original self-tapes that I got when I first posted the breakdown, they had French accents because I was asking for French accents.
I remember watching this.
And then even Renee, who I cast, she has like her first one was in French, and she's like French Canadian, so it was like really perfect for her. But I knew when she sent me her first tape that she was the one that I was going to cast, and she was the first one to send me a self-tape, which was really cool. So anyway, so I did the script, and then I like sent it to a bunch of you guys. I don't know if anybody read it. I don't think anybody reads anything I do, but that's fine because I'm like I'm so self-motivated that I'm like, we're doing it. Everyone wants to help me, and I want to get it done, and it's going to be great, and like I don't stop to think about how bad it could be, and sometimes I feel like that's a blessing and a curse.
I don't know. I somewhere stacked over here. I still have semi notes on like 6 random scripts that you gave me out of nowhere.
Really? You actually
there was
read?
a point where like I was like, well, how are we gonna fit in this part? And you're like, that part was taken out like 3 scripts ago. I'm like,
What?
Yeah, man, I was moving fast. I was even rewriting like I think I made a big breakthrough on the script on the flight to the States to like start pre-production, and then I was even rewriting up until like the night before we actually started producing, which was not okay. I was rewriting in South Carolina when we were there with the kids. Remember, I like sat down at the diner with the 2 kids, and I was like, we redid this whole scene, and Jesse was like, I don't remember any of these lines from the script, and I was like, they're not in there. Sorry.
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
I mean, at least for the most part, you had revisions to them at least like the day before most of the time, if there is anything, because I've been on sets where like the director is handing off a new version of the script like the day of or halfway through the day with like massive line changes, and all the actors are like, are you kidding me? Like, I just rehearsed all this and now it's all completely different.
And I was afraid of that, and Dan, who played Henry, said that to me like in our last rehearsal in person in New York. He was like, just give me like a week or at least, because I want to be able to like actually absorb the material and then bring my best. And I was like, okay, I can do that. And I think for the most part, I locked things down the week before, but it was like little things that we had to improvise on, like the situation with Aaron or the kids, like those things that we had to write as we were going. And I want to talk about those, but I think before we actually get into the play-by-play of each day of production and even the pre-production, I think it's probably important to say that this was my first actual like legitimate production. Like, so the reason that we know each other, like Aaron and I have known each other forever, but the reason that I know you, AJ, and is because we'd worked together kind of in the past on more commercial stuff. And I think you guys are frozen.
Uh-oh.
Did I lose you? Yeah, so we worked together on like kind of commercial things, like small budget stuff, but we at least established like a vocabulary and like a working relationship. And I actually really enjoy working with you guys. And I realized like we weren't talking about narrative stuff, and I was wondering, that's what I wanted to do. That's why I even started getting into like video production in the first place, was so I can get into more narrative stuff. And then when I expressed this to you at some point in 2017, maybe, like I think everybody was pretty interested or pretty pretty, at least open to talking about it. I don't think anybody anticipated it would be what it became, but yeah, I think it's important to say that this was my first real narrative project. And for you guys, like, was it like, I mean, AJ, I'm sure you have like a ton of experience with narrative stuff because we've talked in depth about it. And like Aaron, I don't know so much if you have, and Jesse, I don't know. I mean, I know you've done a short.
Oh, I've tried to do a few shorts, yeah.
Mostly in college or before college. One narrative project after college that it was like that follow-up JJB video.
Yeah.
The first, and you were like, dude, is that really how you want to put where you want to put your efforts? And I'm like, I was curious to see if I could make I think I watched it again recently. I was like, it's kind of funny.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, so yeah, you had narrative experience with your projects, and you were doing those for so long ago. So you had like quite a bit, and like, yeah, Jesse, you were telling me during like the pre-production about your short, and like and I think you'd done a feature, right, or something, like you were on.
Yeah, I've worked on a bunch of narrative projects, but in terms of directing, only like one serious directing job of a short film. Yeah.
Did I tell you guys that I wasn't like experienced at all in narrative before going into this, or did I?
Oh yeah, I know.
Okay.
Mm.
Okay. Good. I hope so. But like, I also have the habit of just like going forward full force without even acknowledging the agency that I had before Noun was like basically built on fake it till you make it. So like that was kind of my motto.
Oh, no. Hopefully nobody sees that.
Yeah, I don't give a shit at this point. But yeah. And so I asked. So when we started actually getting into it, I had some money saved from projects that we'd done together and projects that we'd done, separate for the production company, saved up, and I was like, yeah, I think we could probably make this for like $4 or $5 grand, which was way off, but at least it was enough to like incentivize people like you guys to get involved in helping push things forward. And I'm really glad that it did. I really wish that I'd been more realistic about budgeting, but that's the thing. Like I'm like so optimistic. Sometimes it's great and it's terrible. Like it helps me move things forward, but it also sometimes is blinding. And I think you guys experienced both sides of that throughout this production, because the short film, like in a lot of ways, it didn't live up to like my expectations for it, and it did fall short. And in other ways, it was like way better than I ever imagined it would be. Like there were things about it that I couldn't have possibly pictured because I just didn't know like what the ins and outs of making a narrative film are like, and how collaborative it is, and how people bring their ideas to it, and how much it can be improved by that collaboration. So that was amazing. But I do feel like at this point the film itself, it's a sore subject in a way, and it's also a point of pride. It's both. It's simultaneously both. It doesn't make any sense, I guess. But I'm sure you've experienced that with your own work too. So.
Oh no, 100%. It's a weird. Like you said, you're proud of it, but you're also let down by what you made at the same time.
Yeah,
it's a very weird, unique feeling that I don't feel like translates to many other things. But
yeah, I know for my thesis, when I had all that trouble with my talent, my two lead actors like bickering back and forth to the point where one of them wanted to leave like the set the second day and not come back, and then the one who was starting the arguments, I was worried he was going to leave, and he was my main. And like watching that now, like I'm happy with what it turned out to be. I'm a little upset that I was a little bit of a pushover and let some of the actors like rewrite lines for me and this and that, or like do what they wanted, and not being able to say, hey, I need this exactly from you. This is what's in the script. Let's do it that way. And like slow them down and like get them to collaborate more than like bicker.
Yeah.
But like, I love what the film turned into. It's just, I feel the same way where it's like, oh man, like it's also still like, but you learn from that too. Like, I don't think I would ever let that happen again.
Did you finish? Because I've seen that project. I think the one you're talking about. Did you publish that though?
So I put a version of it out, I think after like a year or so after I wrapped up school, where it was in the festival circuit.
Oh, okay, cool.
At least here in the like East Coast area. So it was shown and it was seen. I ended up reshooting some stuff where, because it had some, it dealt with time travel and some stuff like that. So I did reshoot some material of machinery on the East Coast with some special access that I got to some cool locations.
Just inserts.
So, yeah, right, exactly. So the plan is, and not that I recommend anybody else ever do this, but the plan is I do want to upscale it to 4K since it was all shot 4K anyway, and then pop in some of that extra footage, and then probably put it up when I launch my website and everything as well.
Cool.
So within the coming months or so. Yeah.
Cool. So you're like excited to share it still at this point.
I'm excited. Oh yeah, I'm still excited to share. I still like love the story, and I still love a lot of what we created, but similarly too, I think I also had ideas in my mind of what I wanted something to be or feel like, and then when it was like cameras on and like people were in place and we're in that part of the scene, and I bring it to the edit bay and I'm like, oh man, like this wasn't really exactly what I had exactly in my mind, but in some way too, finding a way to make it work and be comfortable with it, because what you shot is what you shot.
Yeah.
And then just kind of have to like find the way to love it still.
Yeah.
If you can do that.
That's the healthiest approach, to go forward with it and to like be proud of it. It's just like I have with our film, with this film that we're talking about. I got some feedback yesterday or like 2 days ago. Malik got feedback from a girl in film school and her boyfriend or something, and it was like super positive feedback. They were stoked about it, and I'm reading it, and like the cynic in me is like, nah man, I don't like it. Like I'm already so, and like it was sweet, but I also feel like they weren't discussing the actual things that I think are wrong with it. They were just talking about the good parts, and there are good parts. There are definitely good parts, but I also see all these other things that make me, skeptical or cynical, and that's tough. That's really tough to feel that way. And I wonder if I'll ever not feel that way. Like if I ever get to a point where I've done like a handful of features, let's say, and I look back on it, am I ever gonna feel happy with it, or am I gonna be like, yeah, well, that thing that I didn't like about it could have been different. I don't know. But
well, it also depends too, because it's like, I think, at the end of the day, it kind of is what it's going to be, and you can really try and massage it to the best of like the place it's ever going to be at in terms of what you feel is good for the film.
Yeah.
And then at that point in time, and for yourself too, like, you need to really start focusing on what's next and start pushing ahead and making it. I have, and I hope, who knows if they'll see this, but I don't really care. I have a friend from grad school that is still working on his thesis that he shot, I couldn't even tell you how many years ago now.
Is it the one that you reshot recently?
Graduated 2013. What's that?
The one that you reshot recently, like that you did the second.
No, no, that's another story. He never got to graduate because he never finished his thesis, and I wanted, of all the money he spent in the world on his grad school, degree, I wanted to make sure that he finished. So that's the one I flew out to Los Angeles and shot for 2 days straight.
Yeah.
To like make sure, and then I helped him edit and like do that stuff. That one, we just had our final revision session in Frame.io, and that's pretty much done otherwise. But no, this is somebody who like took his thesis and reworked it, and he's still like cutting it up and this and that, and I keep telling him, I'm like, man, the amount of work and effort and everything else you're putting into this, I just wish at this point in time you could have put that into like 2 or 3 other projects.
Right.
You could have really moved on to like something cooler, like your next best greatest thing, because you're working with footage that from forever ago and stuff that
it's like the sunk cost fallacy.
What's that?
It's like the sunk cost fallacy. You've gotten this, invested in this far, you like want to finish it even. That's tough, but you're right, you're absolutely right. Like if you just move on,
polish it so much at some point in time, it's like you know, how much more spit shine can you put on something
Yeah.
before you just say, you know, I learned all these things. Let me build this next thing that I need to move on to, and take everything I learned, build it into this, and then now I've got something that's 5 times greater than this thing that you know that got me to this next stage. So
yeah.
So
Jesse,
everybody's different, you know. Some people just love their babies,
yeah.
and some people just, you know.
I'm having this conversation with myself right now. Like, what am I doing with this? But we'll talk about that more after it's over. After this whole thing is over. But Jesse, did you publish your short?
So my short wasn't even like shot enough to have anything to publish.
Oh.
Like, it like fell apart so much.
Didn't you like burn a barn to the ground or something?
What?
Was there fire involved in yours? Like, wasn't there a fire or something?
Yeah. So So at the end, there was going to be like a whole barn on fire. We weren't going to actually burn it to the ground. There was going to be digital and everything. But that was the end of the movie, to have it on fire, which we actually shot plates for.
Spoiler alert.
It was like, well, we'll see if I actually finish it.
The barn burns down.
It's been 3 years since we shot that. It was 3 years to the day, actually.
Damn.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, what seems to be a trend. I guess this is the best time to shoot, so that makes sense that it's this close. But yeah, that's so. Do you plan to pick it up again or finish it, or is it like?
Recently, I revisited the script, and I was like, all right, if I were to do this again, what would it take?
Interesting.
You know, but with the current climate, kind of faded to the back of my mind again. So.
Of course, yeah. So, shall we just talk about this list of what can go wrong then?
Oh, okay.
It's not. It's definitely.
That you made this
What?
Before now?
Huh?
Did you tell anyone that you made this list before now?
Oh no, I forgot that I made this list. I was I found it accidentally the other day. I just thought, what an interesting title for a document on my drive. What is that? But it doesn't have everything. Like, I looked through it and it's pretty brief, but it also helped me like spark memories and then, you know, associate other moments and be like, oh wait, this also happened because of this. But let's start from the beginning. Let's start from where, like, I flew to the States to do this, and I began pre-production in like mid-March. Before we were aiming to shoot, like, I think second week of April, which got pushed back. And then just trying to, I did like the casting calls, I did the auditions and everything in New York. I did like two or three trips to New York, which is actually way too many trips to New York. I should not have done that. I should have like been more. Yeah, I remember spending an entire day from like 7 a.m. until like 11 p.m. Sitting in a shitty like audition space in New York that was super hot, tiny little space, like very cramped. That's where I met Dan and Renee for the first time, and that's where I like auditioned a bunch of other people. And my mic wasn't even my battery on my mic died, so I didn't have like really good like tapes to show you guys, and like a couple of things like didn't get recorded or whatever. And I took notes, but yeah, I don't know. The one thing I will say that I did right. What?
Real quick, the first day of production was April 16th. I just pulled up the call sheet.
That was the nice. That was the first day, but actually, before actually, hold on, we'll come back to that. Because that was officially the first day, but it wasn't going to be. So I met somebody after the first day of auditions. I think it was Jesse. You picked me up from like Brick, New Jersey, right? And then we went to we went to Ricky's place to like go check it out. So Ricky's place was. What was your experience arriving at Ricky's place first?
So you were talking this place up, like it was like you found the coolest spot on the planet. I was like, all right, sure, let's check it out and see what it's about. And then we get there, and I felt like I was in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. It's like Willy Wonka's chocolate factory. It was just crazy.
So
like,
crazy.
The whole scene with the chocolate river is this guy's house.
Yeah, exactly. And the funny thing is, like, I literally Googled weirdest Airbnb New Jersey with like quotes around it, so it had to be like that exact like search term, and it came up like the weirdest Airbnb in New Jersey, and I clicked on it and I was like, we'll see. And then I like looked at the page and I was like, what the fuck, this place is in New Jersey? This is crazy. And it wasn't actually on my mind for our short film at that time. It was something that I could use later on. I'm like, oh, I know this is here, this is great. And it wasn't fully listed on Airbnb. It was just like an incomplete profile, but there were pictures. So my best friend, she like took this Airbnb and like I guess reverse image searched or something, and she found Ricky's website, and then she found his contact information and she gave it to me. And then the more I sat with it, the more I was like, I reached out to Ricky and I was like, yo, I want to work on a film in your house, and I don't have a film yet, but I want to work on something. I left him a voicemail and I said this, and I think I sent him an email, and he never responded. And then the more I sat with these images, I was like, this actually would make Henry, my main character for this film, this would make him way more interesting. And then I thought about it, and so I hounded this guy. I called him like 4 times. I sent him to like 2 more follow-up emails. And this is like, I wasn't getting a response at all until I think I got to New York, and he finally called me back and was like, hey, sorry, I was like in the woods or something for like 3 days, and I was like doing a thing, and now I'm back. And yeah, if you want to come out and check out the house, so you're welcome to. So then I think I messaged you guys on Slack, and I was like, we have to go here. And I think I coordinated with Jesse because I didn't have a car and I was in New York, and he drove all the way to North Jersey to Brick to pick me up at a train station, and then we drove like an hour and a half to a part of New Jersey that I've never been to, like the top left corner of New Jersey, which is like nothing but trees, and like
Yeah, it was in the middle of nowhere.
it was so far from anything, and like
I loved it.
And so we get to this place, and I have all these pictures in my head, but I did not expect the feeling that I would get when I walked into this house. Like, you stand at it and you're like, whoa, and then you walk inside and you go into like literally a different world. And as soon as I stepped inside, Ricky brought us into the kitchen, and I think the first thing I said was like, Ricky, I don't care like what we have to do. I need to use this place for my film. Like, it has to work. And he was like, well, wait, I don't know. I don't think we can do it. And that was the first thing that went wrong. He was like, yeah, I've had film crews in here before, and you guys need it for like 3 days, and the days that you want it for, I'm out of school, and I'm teaching, and I'm doing like a seminar, blah, 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 or something like that, some sort of event. So it would only be 1 day available. And I was like, fuck. I was like really trying to be cool and like not like demanding because I really, really wanted to use this place. And then it got really weird. And he was like, but I was telling my friend Doug about your film, and he has a weird house, and it's like 5 minutes from here. And I'm like, Ricky, I don't care what you say, this guy's house is going to disappoint me. Like, it doesn't matter. Your house is, I've never been in a building like this before.
There's
so
no
whatever
way that there's 2 weird houses 5 minutes from each other.
Exactly. Whatever you're about to show me, I'm going to be upset about it. So let's just, and then he was like, well, no, like, why don't we just go check it out? I'll take you there. And I looked at Jesse and I was like, I mean, fuck it, let's go. And then we got in this strange man's truck, and like, he took, no idea where he was taking us, or if he was taking us somewhere like that he said he was going to.
Probably
and
a bad idea in hindsight.
terrible idea. Like, we just met this dude. He's already fucking very bizarre. Like, for example, in his house, there's a woman's placenta in the wall. How many people do you know that have a woman's placenta on display in their wall? No, I don't know anybody else. He's the only guy.
Only like one that I met a couple years ago.
Shut the fuck up. So we get in this guy's truck, and he takes us across the last privately owned bridge over the Delaware River, and it's like this like tiny rickety bridge, and there's like an old man collecting.
It was wooden.
Yeah, it was wooden, and there's an old man collecting tolls by hand. It was like, and they're like private little tickets, and oh man, it was so weird. And then we make one turn, and then we're on this road, and then all of a sudden we're at this like old church, and it's got these 4 columns, and I'm like, okay, this is like interesting, but like definitely not what I was expecting, and not at all like Ricky's place. I think like he was like, yeah, the keys are under the mat. So it's like, oh great. So he goes under the mat, grabs the keys, and he opens the door, and he takes us inside, and I'm just like, how is this possible? How is there another place? Do you guys have a community of bizarre homes? Is that what you're trying to do here? And it was like super cool, very different though. Like Doug's place was not a museum like Ricky's place. It wasn't like it still felt like a home, but it had this personality to it that was like nothing I've ever experienced. And I think that actually was the perfect find because Ricky's place was a bit bizarre and Doug's place was surreal but believable. You know,
It makes you more grounded.
yeah, so you could actually accept that this was the reality of this character, even though we did use inserts of like Henry walking through Ricky's place. I don't think it was too much.
Yeah.
I think so. As we're walking around this place, I'm like, so what's the deal? Like, where is this guy? He's like, oh, he's at his other weird house in Texas right now. And he's like, yeah, he's pretty much open to you shooting here as many days as you want. He'll be back on like, May or April 10th or something. And I was like, okay. And he's like, he's like this 80-year-old man, and it's like him and his partner live here, and they have crazy parties, and they're really hospitable. I'm like, all right, let me have a conversation with him. And he gives me Doug's number, and like I talked to Doug the next day, and Doug didn't have any questions for me at all. I was like, hey, I'm looking to shoot a short film here. I don't have a lot of money. It's going to be like 25 people maybe in like 3 days of shooting, and all day, every day. And he was like, yeah, cool. And I was like, do you want to know anything about it? Like my production company, my like the story. He was like, no, it's cool. Like we'll figure it out. And I'm like, great, cool. So then we scheduled we scheduled it for the 16th, 17th, and 18th, I think, were the days that we were going to shoot. And then Ricky allowed us to compromise with him and use his house for just like half a day or 1 day to get the character of the house into the film. And that was so perfect because we had this one location that we could use all day as a base, and then we had Ricky's fucking strange museum house that we could use for the personality without actually having to intrude and take over the space, which ended up being great. And like AJ, you got some amazing inserts that like second day or the first day when we went back together.
Yeah. Well, we went like around the entire place and just shot random stuff.
It was, and it ended up being such an amazing, like people commented on that. I used it in the credits or where the credits will be. People commented on that part. Like it was kind of upsetting for me to like, you just watched this whole story and now you're telling me like the credits, but like also, yeah, super cool. I mean, it was a great find, and not for nothing. Like I think just that's a testament to like the pre-production, right? We spent the time, we made it work, like we compromised, and we ended up getting a really cool location that like nobody else has ever had in a short film before. And Ricky said to me, like, I'm holding out for like a Tim Burton film. And I'm like, I could see that, but like, let me be your Tim Burton. let me be that guy. So we that was super lucky and like a bit serendipitous, right? I don't know what would have happened if. So my actual idea for Henry's house before stumbling on Ricky's Airbnb was just like a traditional office, like an old man's office with like boring walls and like a bookshelf, and like I can't imagine that film now. I can't even picture it. Especially because I think it helped that Dan was the guy, because Dan's weird. Like even like hanging out with Dan a couple times in New York before we started production, I'm like, this guy is a different kind of Henry, and like it doesn't feel like he would be in this kind of office, but it did make sense that he would be in Ricky's place. So it ended up like being this perfect marriage of personalities. So
yeah, it was between two guys, right? It was
yeah. Yeah.
Because I remember you were struggling a bit with casting him.
I hated that decision. I ended up talking the long day of auditions that I did. I had Dan sit in for like the second half, and I had this guy Alex, this like really sweet, gentle old man, sit in for the first half. And it was his birthday that day. He came to New York from Connecticut just to sit in with me and do auditions and to read lines with actors on his birthday. And he was like kind of like a guru or a mentor for me the whole process, like telling me like what he thought felt right, what he thought was like forced, or like telling me giving me advice on the script. And I had such a good time with him that it was hard for me to choose, like it was hard for me to choose between them. And I realized I had Alex read with Renee when she came in for her in-person audition, and they didn't have the connection that I was expecting, because I actually thought Renee would be perfect with Dan, and then I ended up like, despite not wanting to go back to New York again and not wanting to bring them back in for a second audition, I did, and I'm really glad that I did, because it just confirmed that Renee and Dan had the chemistry that I needed for those two characters. But Alex was, yeah, he and I stayed in touch through the whole process. I hung out with him, or I had a call with him during the production, and I had a call with him after, and I've had a call with him like within the last 6 months where I just updated him, and he sent me this long, this like 2-page email of feedback on the first draft, and saying like, you made the right choice in the character that in the actor you chose for Henry. I couldn't feel this way about the character. That's why I was struggling with it, because it didn't make sense for me, and basically just validating the decision, which was super nice, and then also offering me feedback on like just like constructive criticism, which I really needed, and I love that shit. I really appreciate when people speak honestly about the work. And I think that's what he was struggling with in the script, is like the script clearly had flaws and the story had flaws, and I think he felt this before I could understand it, and he didn't know how to communicate that early on, which is why he was struggling with the character. So I ended up making the right choice, but it was a tough one. And then yeah, Dan worked perfectly for Henry, for the version of Henry that we had. I loved it, and it was challenging to work with Dan at points, but like he's such a great dude. Like I've stayed in touch with him. Like I talked to him for an hour like a couple months ago, and I still talk to him like regularly. We exchange emails, and he's a great dude. It was tough during the production, but I'm glad that we did it, and I'm glad that I know him. I definitely appreciate him.
Yeah. I remember you were playing like mind games with me. You were showing me both their audition tapes. Well, I think you lost Alex's tape or something. Did
No,
you have his audition?
I had his I had his self tape, and then I didn't lose anything.
Or something. But I remember you were telling me. I was like, I think Dan's the guy. He's just he's that right kind of weirdness for this character. And then you were like, but I think you kept trying to convince me Alex was the guy. But then you later told me that you had already made the decision on Dan. To try to see how I'd like play off that or something.
Yeah, because I wanted you to consider both sides of it too, because I think it was just a helpful exercise for me to like play devil's advocate, because I was
to see if I could say something you didn't realize or something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because you guys have a different take on it than I do, and I was so close to the story and so close to the auditions that it's hard for me to step outside of that and to realize, like, to think about it objectively, it's impossible. And because you actually were one of the people that wasn't involved at all in the casting process, like I don't think you gave me any feedback on the self tapes until. Like I think
until you showed them to me.
Yeah, because you came over to my house.
Never sat down in person.
Yeah. Jesse had given me some feedback. I think AJ did too, and I think even Malik did, and Jenna. But like at that point, you came over and we talked about it, and it was really helpful for me to discuss it and weigh the options with you. And yeah, we made the right choices on casting for sure. I think everybody did great. The characters were way better. That was one of the things that I think was so exciting for me as like a first time filmmaker, was the versions of the characters that were in my head that I spent like 6 months with almost, or 4 months with. It was so nice to see them come to life and then to be better than I imagined. Like Renee's version of Natalie was better than I imagined. Dan's version of Henry was way better than I imagined. And that was a lot of fun. And
it's always really interesting to see something you've written finally spoken and
oh my god, that was crazy. I think the first audition when Alex and I were in the room together, or even back like when the first self tape came in, Dan was the first person to send me a self tape. And maybe that says something about like why I picked him, but he was the very first self tape I ever got as a director, and I watched this and he went for it, and I remember thinking like, oh my god, these are my words. These are my words come to life. I've never experienced this before. This is super cool. And I was like, yeah, smitten, let's say. It's fucking cool, man. So that's a high that I want to get again. I can't wait for the next one, because I think, and this happened a few times on this production, like where I don't think I've felt that sense of euphoria since, and I want that again. So
I could tell, like I could see like you glowing on set. It was like a nice visual, like he's really having a good time. This is awesome.
Well, I mean that's great, because it could have been the complete opposite, right? It could have been like me just anxious and miserable the whole time. And to be honest, I was anxious and I was a little bit miserable inside, but I was like way more enthusiastic and excited than anything to even like let that be my demeanor, I guess. But there were moments, man.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I just thought there was moments on set I was like, wow, he's doing really well. And there was things you wanted to communicate and you just did not know the terminology. I know what he's trying to get, and it's great that he's saying that, but like then someone would say the word for you. Oh yeah, let's go with that, and it ended up being like usually lining up pretty well.
I was having a conversation with a friend last night who was in film school, and he was saying how like he did a project and his DP was not like a DP's job. A good DP's job is to take the idea that you have and like correct it as you're executing on it, right? To like make it make sense, like to like take your very abstract thoughts and to turn it into something practical and functional and make it work. And I was like, yeah, I had that with AJ for sure. Like I feel like there were points when I was like and that's like literally the words that came out, and AJ and then I would go to the monitor and AJ would do exactly that, and I'd be like, how the fuck did you understand what I just said? Yeah, so
I think also just like from my perspective, when that's my biggest thing when I'm shooting for somebody is I would probably ask somebody 100 times if it's what they want, because at the end of the day, I'm, at least in terms of the way I look at it, is like I'm not there to like support myself. I'm there to support the idea, the concept of the film, and the director.
Yeah.
And for me, it's like I can get it to a point, at least to show them what they want, and then I feel like once it's there, I can say, also, I have a few ideas. If I can try something, let's do it the way you want first, or do you want me to also show you what I'm thinking, and then go back and forth?
Yeah.
Because I think also being on the other side and directing my own stuff, like I've also worked with people who just like did what they wanted, and then I'm frustrated because I'm like, but it's not like what I was looking for exactly, or or even have been on sets where even sometimes, I hate to say it, sometimes the cinematographer like takes over the whole damn thing.
Yeah, that
So
I don't.
try my best
Had
to,
that
like,
happen.
I
Yeah,
can't.
right.
I think the way that we worked together was
Just 'cause I didn't wanna
perfect.
fight.
I really appreciate the support that you gave me and like letting me find the right answer, but also offering options was super helpful, man. Like I cannot say thank you enough for some of the decisions. Like there were times when I was really struggling with the decision, and I knew that it was up to me because you're the director, you're the one that's got to make the decision, but you would give me advice or feedback in the moment or like off to the side that was like, oh, like they would just make it clear. And I think that does come from like, I don't know, it's a mix of just like inexperience, but I do also think it's a lack of practical knowledge or like book knowledge maybe from like not going to film school. I think there is like Aaron said, like words that I just don't know how to use because they're not in my vocabulary.
Physical lingo, right? I mean, and that's what's funny is like, not to knock the Philadelphia area, but the Philadelphia area, there are definitely a lot of people who do know the lingo, but there's just as many people, if not more, who have no idea still and are still learning it. And
Yeah.
it just becomes, it's not a challenge on set, but it like is so much easier when you can really just name drop a few words and somebody instantly is like, oh, I get exactly what you're saying, rather than
Yeah.
really having to explain this big picture. But over time, you kind of get that anyway. Most of the people that just continue to work and film and everything. So
did you feel like that was a level of friction for us on set? Was there anything that like came up?
I mean, not for me personally, because I think myself is, I always view a lot of these projects, especially with people who I know are newer, as also a learning experience for them. So I do try my best when like I can tell somebody's not understanding something to slow down for a minute. But it is also tough on set because
how many times did AJ say slow down for a minute?
We need to move and we need to get stuff done, or Jesse's gonna come and kill us.
Yeah.
So
I have like so many images in my head of Jesse going like, go, let's go, come on, let's go. Like we have to. We're like 30 minutes over. We're an hour behind. Yeah. So wait, where was I going with this line of thinking? God damn it. Yeah, I guess that was one of the things I always talk. I like to disregard film school for the sake of like, I think the things you learn in film school are the easier things to pick up when you're actually doing a production, like those terms or that like etiquette or the way that things work on set, like you pick that up as you do it. And I think the thing that I struggle with when it comes to film school is like people are like missing the abstract thinking or like the creative like ambition to like execute on their own ideas because they're like being told what to do or being like shown what to do more than being asked to figure it out.
I'd have to really, I don't know, I'd say I can't necessarily put all that towards film school, because I think a lot of the knowledge I learned has been from doing things with other people more so than like what film school is teaching me. Film school is just, for me, I looked at film school as like, the curriculum is what it is. You have to start your film at this time and finish your film at this time, no matter what. And then all the other life learning film production experience all came from me busting my ass every weekend to work with other people.
Yeah.
But it was also a mixed experience for me because when I was in graduate school, all the graduate students, not a lot of them were super ambitious, but surprisingly, all the undergrads were just like, they had this mentality of go big, go home, like, at least let's try or we'll fail, or, you know. I learned, I'd say, 3/4 of my knowledge from just watching kids that were like 5 years younger than me, like,
Fail.
just yeah, well, just like either be awesome or completely fail.
But the point is that you were.
All that experience came from doing stuff.
Yeah, I think that's really, really important. Like, I think I learned more on our like week and a half of production than I think I would have learned in 4 years of film school.
Yeah. And I'm sure you learned even more when you.
But
even
with that said, it was very helpful to have people around me that had that knowledge to impart it on me, because like otherwise, if it was just like 4 of me or like 6 of me, like with no knowledge, it would have been a fucking nightmare. So thank you guys.
Well, that's part of directing, is surrounding yourself with kind of people who are better than you in a sense.
Oh, hell yeah. Like,
so you can focus on the one thing you need to do, and that's directing.
I mean, I did a lot more focusing on things than just directing for this, because it was a small crew. Like, we had a skeleton crew, basically. But yeah, you're right. Like, I'm glad that I chose the people around me that I did. Although, so Jesse, when I asked you to be my AD, you were like, oh no. Like, at first you were like, no, man. Like, I've never done that before. And I was like, I'm pretty sure you could do it, just because I did some Google searches and I know what it is now. And and I'm pretty sure I could see you doing it. You were like, let me think about it. And then I think you got back to me like a few days later and you were like, all right, let's try it. Did it?
I ultimately was like, all right, I've never done this before. Let me step outside my comfort zone a little bit.
Why did you decide to do it?
Because I guess it was something I haven't done. You know, it was a different side of production that I'm not used to, and I find it valuable to really understand each person's job and what they have to go through. Because if you can understand their job more, then you can kind of relate to them more when they're struggling on set, and not like lash out at them or anything, you know?
Yeah. Okay, so then after we wrapped, like, did you feel like, oh, I would do this again, or I've had enough?
No, it was, well, besides a few minor things, I'm sure we'll get to.
We will.
Yeah, it was enjoyable, and I would do it again.
Cool. I'm really glad that you said yes, because if you didn't, I would have probably tried to do it myself or had Jenna do it or something. And like, I think it was good because you and I had a relationship going into it that was more professional than it was. I mean, going into the pre-production at least. And then I think it was like a boundary that we needed, because if I had like asked my sister, I think I would have gotten more frustrated, you know, if things didn't go the right way. And I would have been like expecting more, but because I didn't really know what that was going to be like with you, I was open to whatever. And that was also important just throughout the duration of the production, was just rolling with it, because like a lot of shit went wrong, and it was important to roll with. So
you got to be prepared to say, okay, this is going wrong. How do we fix it? We can't worry about it or like freak out about it. We just gotta plow through.
Yeah. What was the biggest? No, well, we'll get into it more. So the first day of production was the 16th. That was the call sheet, right? That's what the call sheet said. But it was supposed to be the 12th. Do you remember the 12th? All of a sudden scrambling to get to the Ferrari, because the Ferrari was available until like the 15th. So we needed a red Ferrari because of the last line of that script at the time was like something about a red flag, and it was like a double entendre about the Ferrari being a red flag for the IRS, but actually like, yeah, he was talking about, I don't know, like just like money embezzlement and shit like that. But so I needed a red Ferrari, and I was not finding a red Ferrari. I was like finding like green Ferrari or like a Maserati or like some other bullshit. Yeah, like we had a Lamborghini that was like dark red, and I was like, nah, it's got to be like Ferrari red. And so finally this guy Chris with this like exotics place in like Central Jersey was like, yeah, we have one, I could help you. And I was like, cool, let's figure this out. And I think we had him scheduled for the 17th or something, and then like a few days before production he was like, no, the Ferrari's going out for rental for a year starting on the 15th. And I was like, shit, this is our only Ferrari. We have to make this work. So I called Jesse, I called AJ, I called Corey, who was playing the pizza boy. I called Raul, like the guy who's playing Raul. Like I didn't even really have him cast yet, and I was like trying to find somebody to fill these characters so we can shoot with this Ferrari for like an hour in a parking lot. And everybody made adjustments. Corey canceled work for that day just to come and shoot with us. And like I found somebody that was not an actor but would be available for that day and was interested in coming out and like would drive the 45 minutes to get there or whatever. And
my dying car.
And we took Aaron's. We took
scenes.
and we took your bumper off for that scene. Remember? So we removed Aaron's back bumper just to
That was
shoot.
the least of the problems with that car going back and forth.
And
The exhaust kept falling off.
And we took your rearview mirror off, and were we shooting that? Yeah, we were shooting that day. So we destroyed Aaron's car. We canceled plans. We rearranged things. And I think AJ, you and I had just gone up to Doug's that day, the 12th, to like solidify things or something, to like talk the deal with him.
Yeah, I
and
remember I was in your car for quite some time.
Yeah, and we were coming back, and we were like we were exhausted because I think we'd left at like 5:30 or something stupid like that, and we were coming back to shoot this scene, and like I remember everybody rolling up at I think like 3:00 or something, and Raul gets there, and I introduce myself, and Corey's there with us because we picked him up from Brick, and Aaron gets there, and as Aaron's rolling in, the Ferrari is like leaving, and I'm like, what?
Yep.
Or no, the Ferrari was leaving when you and I pulled up first, but then Chris comes out and was like, I just rented the Ferrari out for the weekend. And I'm like, what the fuck, dude? Like I was real cool about it, but I was like inside, I was like, ugh. I was
like, you gotta know, like, you know, these things change. It's my business. I gotta like do this stuff. And
I was like, but I was mad because he made me a promise. Like I was like, I'll make this work if you can tell me that the Ferrari's gonna be there. And he was like, it'll be there. Don't worry, we'll make it happen. And so we show up and it leaves, and I was pretty upset. And like I don't know the guy, and you did know the guy, which was weird. But
I worked with him on another production, but it's weird.
Of course, AJ knows everyone.
Yeah.
It just was like, what?
So I didn't know the guy, and then I was like, what happened? And he was like, well, some guy came in today and was like, my brother's dying of cancer, and his dream is to drive a red Ferrari, and he just left to go to Canada with this car. And I'm like, you know what, dude? You're that's fine. Like you made a good choice, because like honestly, if that's the case, if you're not bullshitting me, like that is way more important than my shitty little film. So good for you. I'm pretty bummed still, obviously, and I had to send Raul home and like had to pay for his day of shooting and Corey's day of shooting and like the gas to get there and all this other stuff, even though we weren't shooting. And yeah, I was pretty upset. I was pretty bummed, and that was the day I think I started making this list of like what could go wrong. And as soon as that happened, but then AJ kind of saved it and was like, you know, because he knew the guy Chris, and he was like, well, can we work something out? And Chris was more open to it, I think, at that point. And then we.
Oh yeah, I was like, as soon as I realized I knew him, I was like, well, the least I can do is at least say, like, oh hey, I know you from this thing, like at least build this like friendship trust back, or say like, yeah, somebody else hired you that I knew. Make it almost seem like the only reason why Eddie was here is because I somehow knew.
Yeah, and like I think it definitely helped loosen him up, because he made it a point to he said, I'll ask the guy that's gonna rent the car for the year if we can like use it. Like he was trying at least for me, and he was like, I have another Ferrari, blah blah blah. We'll aim for like next Friday.
Whatever.
Yeah. So then we tabled that for the time being, and that wasn't the first day of production. So the first day of production ended up being the 16th, and I remember. When AJ and I had gone out to meet with Doug in person for the first time, like I also didn't expect Doug to be who he was, like this like fragile old man with like white hair, and he's like got this crazy flamboyant shirt on, and I'm like, and he's like got this bounce in his step for an 80-year-old, and I'm just like, what, dude, you have so much energy. This is super cool.
It's surprising to know that he's that old, because he definitely seemed a lot younger than that.
Yeah, like he and so we went into this meeting without any real idea of like, is he going to accept what I have to offer him? Because we didn't really talk specifics, because he just didn't care. And so we drive all the way up there, like 3.5 hours away, to have this meeting and hope for the best. And we're in his kitchen, and I'm like, okay, so I have $750. $750 to like,
I think you round. Did you say 750? You just round to 800. I think you rounded to 800.
It might have been.
Yeah.
All I know is I had the money with me in an envelope. Like I had
yeah,
that much
got it.
money, and I was like, I have this much money for the location rental, for the food, and
Right.
I'm looking for someone to do catering. And Ricky told me you do catering, and he was like, yeah, cool. And I was like, cool, like, no,
Yeah, right. Are
that's
you
it.
sure?
And he was like, yeah, that's fine. And I'm like, okay. And we didn't discuss whether or not that included the cost of food. And he just took the money and we left and we were like, we'll see you on Tuesday or whatever day it was. And he was like, great. And I was like, and I remember being in the car with you after and being like, I don't know if this was clear enough, but I really hope it was clear enough.
I think we just said, we'll deal with it after everything happened.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot going on, like still gathering props, still getting people's like schedules in order. And so then,
The truth was, like, he was there. You got to talk to him in person. He said yes. You gave him the money. You knew it was gonna happen, and then because I know up until this point, a lot of these people were so hard to get a hold of as well. So
yeah.
It's also this question of like, if you start a back and forth now, will you even hear back by the time we get back to start filming?
Exactly. Yeah. So it was nice. It was good that we went up there and talked to him and put a face to the name. It's the same for us too. I think that really helped him. And then we had and we were like, I think we even checked out the cabins that we were going to use while we were there.
Oh, we did. Yeah.
Yeah,
We
and
sat
that was.
down and talked to the person there.
That was one thing that I really didn't account for when we were planning this and budgeting, because like those cabins ended up being, I think, like 40% of the budget. Like it was insane how much that cost me just to house people. It was. I talked to a motel nearby. I talked to a couple other hotels. Like there either wasn't enough space for everybody, or the price wasn't nice enough, or it was going to be like super shitty, and I didn't want people to be miserable. So I ended up working out a deal with this woman with the cabins, and it was nice, but it like really crushed me in terms of like cost.
Oh, sure. Yeah, that was expensive. And I know you said that she had a deal for you as well, or she made a deal for you or something.
Yeah.
But it's always tough though too, because it's like, weren't we kind of there out of season anyway?
I actually was honest with her. I was like, listen, like I know that this is like not a busy time of the year, and I'm offering to fill your rooms basically. And she was like, yeah, but like I really can't afford to go any lower than this just in case, because it was like 4 or 5 days I think that or like maybe 3 days.
Yeah, it was a good number of days.
Yeah, and then she was like, and I have to clean it, and I do have people interested in like at least one of the cabins, and I wasn't like I didn't want her. There was a point on the phone, she was being super nice to me and she was being very honest, and there was a point on the phone when I like pushed a little bit further and I could hear it in her voice that she was feeling a little bit like she was being taken advantage of, and I didn't like that feeling. And she was already being so nice to me that I was like, okay, I'm gonna make it work. We're gonna do it for this price, and I'll give you cash so that way like we don't have to pay for the taxes or whatever, which was maybe I shouldn't say, but like that's what it was.
Just don't say what brand or what the company was.
Yeah, so it was nice. I think the cabins ended up being pretty nice. I was really looking forward to actually spending time at the cabins with everyone and enjoying the fire, and that never happened.
We didn't get to.
You were like,
yeah, we were so tired. Like I think
fireplace or fire pit and blah blah blah. And
you're so excited about that.
Yeah, like not only that, but getting to the place, it was close, but it wasn't that close, right? It wasn't like we could just walk there and spend time there and then be on set. And like we spent either all of our time on set and then sleeping, or we just didn't go and enjoy it.
I remember it being like there was a lot of miscommunication between like everyone on how to actually get there.
Yeah.
I remember.
Oh my gosh!
Eddie,
stressful.
you were like, you just gotta turn here.
There's no service to get in touch with them.
True. Yeah, that was something.
You could literally get through.
Yeah, it was like a driveway, like someone's personal driveway, and it was like tucked away in the woods where there's no service at all, and like there's a tiny little sign, but it's covered by trees, so if you miss it, then you're like driving forever because there's nothing else. Yeah, that was.
When we got there, we couldn't figure out which cabin was which.
Yeah, because it was dark. I don't think there was a night where I went to sleep before 3 a.m. So I definitely didn't enjoy the clay. And I slept on a futon in the cabin with Corey, and Corey had his own. Like the one thing I made sure of was that like the talent had their own private spaces, which was like a SAG thing. So I was like, that has to happen, and then I'll sleep on the floor if I have to. I kind of wish I'd been a little bit more respectful to myself throughout this process, but at the same time, like it was necessary to get things done.
You tend to have a habit of that.
man,
I feel like
I
you will make things harder for yourself than they have to be sometimes.
I just wanted to make I was taking the brunt of it as much as I could for everyone else because you guys were stretching yourselves so far already and being super gracious that I just didn't want to if it was my comfort it didn't matter, you know, as long as I could help make things a little bit more comfortable for you guys because everybody was being so generous with their time and their intellect and their collaboration. So yeah, so there was so the Ferrari thing, the first day with the Ferrari, that fell apart. And that kind of set the tone, I think, for the production going into it. I could not fall asleep the night before. I don't think I slept like at all the night before. And
It just happens to everybody on a big project eve. Yeah.
so I drove up to meet up with Doug. I was like, "Hey, Doug, I'm coming up early the night before to like help you out with some stuff because he was preparing a huge meal for like 20 people, and there's gonna be a lot of food purchased and like I imagine like groceries for just like myself are a pain in the ass. I can't imagine what shopping for 25 people is like. So I drive up there the night before and I get there at like 9 p.m. and Doug invites me in and I'm like, "All right, are we going shopping now?" And he's like, "I already did all the shopping." And I was like, how the fuck did you manage to do shopping for 25 people by yourself? He was like, "Well, I had a friend help me, but it was fine." And he's already cooking. He's already telling me about breakfast and stuff. And he was like setting me up in his bedroom and like giving me a towel and like making sure I was comfortable. And I was like, this is the most hospitable man I've ever met in my life.
He was amazing.
He was amazing. Doug was a saint, an actual saint. Like I think if I ever like make a substantial amount of money on filmmaking, it's going back to Doug at some point. It has to. Like Doug, I owe Doug so much. And I don't know if like after we wrapped at his location, I said this to him. I was like, if we raise money for this and we get it to like publish it or like do a crowdfunding thing, like I want to kick some of that back to you. And he said yes, like as if he was expecting it. And I was like, oh no, maybe he is expecting it. Maybe there was a miscommunication. And I really don't know to this day. I remember calling him after and thanking him again, like almost being in tears on the phone and thanking him and being like, dude, I cannot thank you enough. There's no way. Like I wish I had, you know, $10,000 to give you for this because you provided that much value, if not more, for me. And it was challenging. Like there was a night where everybody was staying later. I think Henry and Corey and Dan went into like overtime, and I just needed to get everybody to sleep because we had an early shoot the next day, and like all the dishes were still like in the sink, and Doug had been running around all day feeding us, and like we kept pushing the times back for lunches and dinners and stuff, and he was like really stressing out about that. And so I was like, Doug, just go to sleep, man. Like just go get a good night's sleep. I'll take care of the dishes.
We'll do it. Yeah.
So I was like in the kitchen. I was washing dishes, like scrubbing things, and I just had this like moment of like, why the fuck is everyone helping me? Why is everybody being so nice and feeling so guilty and so much pressure, and at the same time so thankful that I just like started crying, like holding dishes, just like alone in the kitchen crying. I was bawling my eyes out, like, thinking like, hoping everybody's at the cabin and not gonna come back here and see this. And I think Jesse came in at some point, and I was like, dude, I don't know what's happening. I'm so stressed, but I'm so thankful at the same time. It was a lot, man. It was like, it's a lot of pressure to be like, to have people helping you in that way. Like everything that you guys did for me, all the effort you put into it, all the energy you were expending, and the patience that you were giving me, like that just kept adding on to the idea that this has to be good. This has to be worth it. You know, this has to be a thing that people are proud of, that I can show people. And that's still something that I sit with and kind of battle on a daily basis with, wondering like, what am I going to do with this edit? And it was at that moment in the kitchen at like 3 a.m, it was a bit overwhelming. Like I felt a mixture of pain and euphoria, you know? And yeah, that was something that I did not expect. And that happened maybe like 1 or 2 more times throughout the production, where it kind of broke down in the privacy of my like own space. But I was really trying to keep it together and be like, you know, good, being like stable and being clear and having the vision for everyone, because at least I should do that. You know, if I can't actually provide a piece of art that is to be proud of, I can at least give you guys an experience of like having a clear direction. And it was challenging at times, really challenging. Yeah, but
Yeah, man. I mean, been there.
we gotta we got it done at least. We got a late start the first day, and then Corey and Dan were both sick the first day, and I think for the whole production, I think it was maybe a mixture of, yeah, Corey or Dan, one of them was like allergic to the space, maybe like to Doug's house, I think. Everybody showed up later. Aaron, you and Jenna were late. Rob was late, like to get to set the first day, and we missed the meals. And then we were shooting at Ricky's house the first day, right? The first shoot was at Ricky's, and we forgot to put the rings on Henry that were gonna be happening like throughout the film, like him wearing the rings. We didn't get any photos for like a poster or something at Ricky's house like we wanted to with the characters. Renee didn't even get to really see Ricky's house, which I kept like hyping up for her too the whole time, being like, you can't believe this house. I can't wait till you see it. And like we didn't have time to really even bring her, so that was a bummer. We didn't shoot anything there with her. We didn't have the pizza bag, and then it was somewhere else for the first shot.
I had it.
Yeah, but it wasn't on set for that. Like we didn't have it, and then we had to like pause to go get it. And
well,
I think
I ended up bringing it to you.
Yeah, because it's in the final film.
It is, yeah.
Don't come to the first house. Go to the second house. Wait there until we need you to bring the bag over.
Yeah.
Like you can have enough people over there or something.
Yeah, and yeah, exactly. It was like we couldn't have too many cars or something, and then we had to like push that back, and that pushed the whole day back a little bit, and we missed the setup for the abduction. Like we didn't get the whippet, like activating the whippet, like we talked about, and then we talked about doing that later and picking that up, but it ended up not being necessary, which is interesting because like it was a pretty stressful point for me of like, oh, we missed that really important like shot that the audience is going to need to understand how this works, and like with the sound design and the way it cuts and the way it's all cut together, you don't need it.
Yeah, it works.
Yeah, as long as there's a sound that is it being activated, then I would like to believe that if people saw the can, they'd know exactly what's going to happen. So
yeah, I think it ended up being fine. And at this point, like I have a note here, we still didn't cast young Henry, which means we still didn't have a young Ava, which means I was still doing casting at this point in the midst of all of this chaos.
Yeah, I remember that it was like halfway through production and you were still trying to cast.
I didn't cast those kids until the day before we shot with them, I think, or like 2 days before.
Yeah.
Like I was in South Carolina still working on it, having calls, being like, can you do it? Can you do it? Because there was like a choice of like, I had a girl that was like 20 something and she could play like a 17-year-old, or there was a kid who was like 13. So I had to make the two characters match in age, but I had to pick one of them first, and like, it was so stressful. The Wednesday the 17th, lunch was like hours after we scheduled it. We didn't have a chair to flip because that was in the script, so we ended up improvising that for Corey, for Dennis, like in the chair. Like I think he was supposed to like turn over in the chair, and we were like trying to work that out, but the space didn't allow for it. I think this is the day we were just talking about where I was in the kitchen like 4 a.m. I didn't go to sleep until 4 almost 5 a.m. that night, and I think we started at 7:30 the next day.
So we were there 2 full days?
Yeah.
Or were we there 3 full days?
No, we were there 2 full days. I think that was the last day, and then we were heading down from Dingman's Ferry to we did
shop.
Did we stop? We were originally going to stop for the Ferrari stuff. I think we did stop to check out the Ferrari stuff just to set things up maybe at some point, or did we go? No, we went down super late. I think to go to South Jersey to set up for the next day. I think AJ, you had to like sleep at a rest stop or something on the way down.
I slept on Jesse's couch.
Yeah, I have. Well, if I'm really tired, I know when I need to like stop somewhere and just like close my eyes to make sure I'm safe.
Yeah, good. Yeah, I ended up.
You're right. I did have to do that.
We wrapped super late that night, and I had to take Dan to the train station and Corey as well, and say goodbye to them for a couple days, or Corey for a while, or maybe even for good. I don't think I've seen him since then. And then drive 3 hours back home, and I was exhausted, and I had Jenna in the car with me, and I think.
Yeah, I took Corey to the bus station. That's what it was.
Wait, actually, no, Corey.
You
Corey.
took Dan. Remember, you drove Dan like to New York.
No, I took Dan to the train station. Corey came back with me that night. Corey and Jenna came back with me because Corey was shooting the next day at the pizzeria.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So I was like, I was so wired, even though I was exhausted. I was so wired that I couldn't have possibly fallen asleep at the wheel because I was just like thinking about all the millions of things that I still had to do and like plan for the next morning. We ended up getting in at that night. I went to sleep at 4:40. and then tried to get to the pizzeria to set things up because we didn't really do that. And the guy that owned the pizzeria wasn't answering me to give me the keys, so I was like a little bit behind. But everybody was behind. I think AJ, you ended up getting there like an hour and a half late or something, and then like I think even.
But by the time I was there, I don't even know if it was still open yet. Like I think we're still waiting for somebody to come open it.
No. What was it?
Yeah, we were waiting there for a little bit.
Even
There was a goat running around the backyard.
even when
The goat.
It was like, what? Of the pizza place, there was like a goat running around in the fenced area.
yeah, there's a guy they have a goat. Yeah. So I had gotten home super late that night, and at some point I had to warn my parents that like the guy playing Mac was coming over to sleep in my bed because I needed a place for him to stay. And my dad was like, okay, what does he look like? And I was like, how am I going to explain that to you? So, just expect a strange car and expect a strange man, and that man is going to be in my movie. And he was like, okay. I was like, just let him in, set him up in my room, like change the sheets for me. And they were like really helpful. And so he gets there, he meets them, he goes to sleep. Corey and I get there super late to get a couple hours of sleep, and we sleep on the couches. And the next morning, I wake up and I get them all up and ready to go, and I take off for the pizzeria, and I'm like waiting around for the keys. I don't remember it being still closed by the time you got there, though. I feel like we were in there at that point, but maybe I misremembered that.
It wasn't very long. It was like 15 minutes. It wasn't like.
Yeah, me and Jesse were waiting for about 15 minutes.
Well, I was waiting for like an hour at least, and then Nick got back to me, and I picked up the keys at the deli, and we opened it up and started set dressing, which was basically just moving shit around because we already had everything we needed there.
I feel like that was by far the most stressful day.
That was the second time I had a breakdown, because I remember my breakdown comes later in the day, but I had a flight scheduled that day, and we only had we had to break into two teams where like I was going to South Carolina and you guys were going to the Ferrari for the second attempt at the Ferrari shoot.
And I had a wedding that I just couldn't. I had to work a different thing that day too.
Oh, you didn't go to the Ferrari.
I was done.
Oh my god, that's crazy. That's such a stressful day. And then on top of that,
And I had.
what?
Oh, I was gonna say I had made a promise that I was gonna meet somebody later that day, and I had to keep pushing it back more and more because we were taking longer, and then the Ferrari took X amount of time, and then at some point in time during that.
Something off to you.
Yeah, I don't know. At some point in time during that, somebody also called me and told me I left a stand up in at Doug's house.
You went back to Dingman's Ferry. You went all the way back to Doug's house to pick up that stand,
then,
right?
Yeah, I stayed over Katie's place because I hadn't seen her in like almost 2 weeks, I think, because of all this stuff. And then I was like, sorry, in the morning, I just need to go right back to Dingman's.
That's
I think I
crazy.
left at like 3 a.m. from her house to drive to Dingman's Ferry.
And it was like he put the stand outside for you or something?
Yeah, he left the stand outside.
It was outside.
It was, that's what it was.
Oh man.
And then I picked up
what a long drive.
somebody's jacket too from the what's it called?
Yeah, whose jacket was that? Rob's or something maybe? No,
Yeah, something
I don't
like
remember.
that. I don't remember.
I just
Robbed it. He was a good dude.
That was
Yep.
Oh, that was a story too. Like, Rob was like the sweetest guy, and then all of a sudden Rob was the devil, and I was like, huh? That doesn't make any sense. So that was definitely the most stressful day I think for me, because so we start setting up and we're late. That's already at number one, and then I didn't have the food ready yet, and I was worried about not having enough food, and then we started blocking. And then we started waiting for people to show up, and then it was like.
And then I get a text from our sound guy Dylan.
Dylan didn't show up.
I slept through my alarm, and it wasn't even worth it for him to come anymore because we were going to be done by the time he got there.
Yeah, because
I had to run sound on top of doing the 80s stuff.
Which is it's first of all that was a normal production, let's say, we don't have a backup for sound. AJ had gear, which is amazing. Yeah, but if Dylan wasn't showing up, we weren't.
Because I don't think Dylan was originally going to come for the second half of that day with the car. I think it was just going to be us. So I think I had it down just in case for the car stuff.
Yeah.
And it ended up being the opposite, where I think Dylan decided he wanted to show up for the car or something.
To make up for the missed. Yeah.
He felt super guilty and upset that he.
Yeah.
Because to be very fair, it was a very late night the
Yeah,
night before, and
I
a very
didn't-
early start the next day.
I didn't feel upset about that at all. Like the fact that he didn't show or that he slept through his alarm was totally. I'm surprised more of you guys didn't show up at all. Like I was like, this is the night before went way longer than anybody expected, and it was such a long drive, and it was such an exhausting day that I think we could have done a better job of scheduling. Like maybe a little bit more foresight in that, because that was the most stressful day. Like I think when we finally got things set up and we were ready to shoot, and like Corey and Jim were going through their lines, and then we had the pizza place set up the way we wanted, and we kind of knew the blocking, and then it was like 9 a.m. and like we were supposed to start shooting, and then you get that text message from Carlos.
Bro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like I remember we're standing outside, and like Carlos is the last one we're waiting for, and like Jesse looks at me and goes, Carlos is here. Carlos is here, and I'm like, no, he's not. And then he was like, fuck, I sent him the wrong address. And like, so where is he? And he's
That
like,
was just like the cherry on top.
he's like,
You're
he's in Dingman's Ferry, like 4 hours away. And I started cracking up, and Jesse was like, why are you laughing right now? I don't understand why you're not so upset. And I'm like, dude, it's fine. Like we'll make it work. This day is already kind of falling apart, and like,
So I remember that so vividly. Like you and I were inside, and I was like, "Oh, he's here. That's weird." And then I go outside to look for him. I was like, "Uh-oh," and then I open up the address. Like, this is the right address, right? And then I click it on my phone, and then it's like 3.5 hours, like on Google Maps. And I just remember looking at you and be like, "All right, I fucked up." You're like, "What?"
What was like? It was also a toss-up though too, because if I'm not mistaken, like the address was correct on the call sheet,
yeah.
but
But he texted you.
and you just copied the wrong one or
Yeah.
sent him the wrong one by accident.
Yeah, exactly.
I was like,
So
not
I
even.
texted him, all right, here's the call sheet, run through everything on the call sheet, it's right, but here's the address just for you to have. Like,
Oh
also,
no!
You're trying to be. You were trying to be extra
you missed
helpful.
your chance to get your stand brought back.
True. I wasn't. I think actually, I think somebody asked that, and
Can you bring it back?
I was like, I don't know, man. Because think about this. Like we had Carlos come out. We had Carlos come out on the 12th. Like he took off work for the 12th to come and be there for the Ferrari shoot, which got canceled.
You didn't do that either.
Yeah, and this was going to be his first film, so he was super excited. And then we sent him 3.5 hours out of the way to do something completely different, and I had to fire him because like there was no way, given the time we had at the pizzeria, to bring him on to wait for him. Yeah, well, I let you have that one because I didn't want to do that. I was like, you can tell him. Yeah. So we had
He
to.
got paid for just driving, so.
He did. I paid for his gas, and I think I paid him like
I know.
I think I paid him the day rate maybe, or half the day rate for the time that he was supposed to be acting and wasn't. I felt so bad for that guy because he was super sweet about everything. And when I called him, like I think the next day to apologize, he was very sweet about it. But if I was him, dude, I would have been so pissed. I would have been so pissed that I drove. That's like an 8-hour day basically for him for nothing, like driving, and that's a long day. And like it was. I was more than anything, I was upset for him and not upset at Jesse because what he did was like, it was like, you know, driving home super late, already tired, just trying to be accommodating and helpful, and like copied the wrong address. Like that's a small mistake. Big deal. And like, I just.
The night of being overworked before just kind of set the tone for the next day.
Good decision.
I remember you being so confused about.
A mistake I won't make again though.
Yeah. Well, that's good. That's good. It was a learning experience. Yeah, I remember you being so confused about my response to it and just being like, "It's fine. Like we'll figure it out." And then like throwing Aaron into the fire. I mean, like, Aaron, guess what you're doing today? you're gonna be the dishwasher. And then we
always forget that I'm acting in it until we get to that scene. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. What
I
AJ?
just want to watch it. What?
Well, AJ said something I couldn't hear him.
Oh, I said, weren't we joking about it though? Like, what if Aaron had to act or something?
Yeah. Well, it was like it.
it.
We have Aaron just in case. Like it wasn't serious, and then it was like serious when.
It's not like I haven't acted in several things before that. Like I guess it wasn't unreasonable for me to be a thought.
Yeah,
Not
and
say I'm
you
a good
dude,
actor,
you
but
did
I've done
great.
it.
Like your performance was exactly what we needed for that character once we changed things. Like it was a little bit stiff at first because you were uncomfortable, rightfully so, because we just threw you into it on the day of, and we had to rewrite that scene because like those lines were based on that character's race and you were not that character's race, so we had to basically rework it. And that was Yeah, fun. I mean, improvising was fun, but also super stressful, and I feel like Jim was hard to work with. You know, like of all the people that were on the like all the cast, Jim I had the most trouble communicating with, and I don't know why. I think it was like he had a very strong personality, and he had a very blunt way of putting things, and sometimes I felt like that was a challenge to have on
He was
set.
an intimidating looking dude, and the way he talked was intimidating. Like I kind of understand that, and also his character. It's just like he kind of fit the idea of the role at least.
Well, I couldn't read
Did that
him
get in your
though.
head at all?
I couldn't read him because like everyone else that I was working with, if I would say something and communicate an idea, like I wanted something to be this way, I could tell if they were absorbing it and actually like gonna act on it, or not, or if there was like a miscommunication or confusion or whatever. With him, I would say something and I wouldn't know if he actually first aligned with it, and then I wouldn't know if he was like, based on his performance, I wouldn't know if we actually, if it made sense or if he took what I was saying, and like it was really challenging for me as the director. Maybe I was just really tired and stressed out that day. I don't know. Could have been.
That definitely could be.
I vaguely remember like a little bit of a tone.
The scene came out great. Like I think he nailed it, and I
Yeah.
think we ended up getting exactly what we needed. I do remember Corey struggling with it too, because like I think maybe he was like method acting or something, but he was intimidating, and he was like a big
Every character is treating his character like shit. So
a big presence.
that day.
Yeah. So that was maybe like my favorite fuck up of the whole just because it wasn't my fuck up. I think that was
You can laugh at me for a little bit, yeah.
that was so much fun, and I will never
We
let
got
you
it
lay
back
that down.
eventually.
What
So we got Jesse back eventually.
did
He
we?
ended
Oh.
up
The
wrong
meet up at
location
the
for-
market, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh yeah. Yes. Oh wait, I guess we could talk about that. Like
got his due.
so I came home in what was it, September, to like do another
Yeah.
project, and I was like, yo, I'm in the area, like let's let's catch up. I haven't seen you in a while. And why did it change? I said Reading, let's go to Reading Terminal Market, or like I suggested you go to Reading Terminal Market maybe.
Yeah, I was like, all right, that's cool. But I was like, I have a shoot later that day because I did have a wedding. And then you're like, all right, well, how about we do this at this time at my place? So I was like, all right, yeah, sure. And I just didn't connect that we were going to your place instead of the market.
We went, yeah, it's like we'll go to art.
Well, I just shoot in Philly. So I was like, all right, I can go there, hang out for like an hour beforehand before my shoot.
Yeah.
And then I just didn't connect the
So
dots.
you were like, yeah, I'm here, I'm parking. I'm like, I'm in the parking lot of Casciano's. I'm like, I don't see you. I'm like, this is the same exact thing that happened before with Raul. So on top of all of this day was super stressful. I lost the ring that I had paid $120 for from Ricky for Henry's character, and I remember
Wow.
scrambling to get to get offset to get to my flight, and like being so paranoid because I couldn't find the ring, and the ring was like, it was in the shots before, and now it wasn't going to be because I didn't have it anymore, and it was like an action, like an actual thing that happens in the last scene where he takes the ring and puts it on, and I had another. My second breakdown was like I was like digging through my Jeep trying to find this ring, digging through my room, like throwing things around, like buried folders and stuff. And like I remember falling in the backseat of my Jeep and like lying there and just like crying to myself like quietly. And like my sisters found me at some point and being like, what's wrong? And I was like, it's too stressful. I'm under so much stress. I don't know what I'm doing. And then getting a text message from the airline and being like, your flight's delayed 5 hours, and being like, oh my god, I'm scrambling for no reason. I didn't even know. Like I got the text way before. I could have like saw that and been like a little bit calmer, but oh man, and then you guys were calling me at the pizzeria with the Ferrari and like asking me questions, and I'm like really struggling to communicate what I want because I don't know how to direct virtually. That was hard.
Yeah.
That was really hard.
You kind of left it in our hands to direct a few of those scenes, but I just like had to get some approval
Yeah.
from
And I
like
think
you
the
before we
problem
like
was,
didn't have this Ferrari again.
Yeah.
but we were also all so freaking tired and so unable to make real decisions at that point in time that we were just trying our best to do
Yeah.
animal
I mean, it got back and forth to like decide, all right, what's going to be best for this.
Yeah.
But
And to be honest with
you
you,
wanted me to direct it, but I was like, dude, I was not prepared for that, and then so I kind of had like AJ go back and forth with me about that.
Yeah, and it actually it didn't end up being at all what I had pictured or what I tried to communicate with you guys,
Yeah,
and
I
that's
remember.
not on you. That's not on you. That's on me for not communicating it clearly enough, but also on me for not being there because I couldn't be there, and maybe that comes down to like being better at scheduling and like I said, foresight and forecasting, but it worked anyway. Like I think if I would have just like relinquished control over that to you guys entirely, it would have been fine, like regardless. And I kind of did do that, but I try to, I don't know, give you enough insight. I don't know.
Yeah. I just remember I got a phone call like when you were editing. So like, so what were you thinking when you were doing the car stuff? You know, I just want to understand what your idea was there. And I'm like,
I don't remember because I was exhausted.
Whatever you told us, buddy.
No, but like,
it's like,
yeah, I don't know. I think it was a matter of like actually getting there and being in the location and having the shots, or the blocking not being the way I had pictured it would be because it was different. Like the parking spots were different. The way that you guys had things set up was different.
Yeah.
I didn't even end up
That area was
using
tough.
the
That
shot.
was also because of just trying to get access to those parking spots. Like other cars, like kind of got in the way. We got a little lucky and
Yeah, and
had
people
to be
kept
vigilant
coming
about
and
like what
going,
spots are opening up
background would change.
to get the Ferrari.
Yeah.
And also like this guy who's clearly like also like on it. No, he wasn't on edge, but he was just like, all right, so like when are we gonna be done? The guy, the owner of the Ferrari.
Really? Guys, I thought he just dropped it and like left you guys.
A little bit. Yeah,
well,
he kept coming back.
no,
I gotta be back by a certain time.
Well, I think it
He
was
back once,
actually
didn't
he. I'm not sure. He showed up. He went inside, and when he showed up, he made it sound like it was super strict. And then he went inside and talked to his friends in the shop or the bakery or whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
Then he came back out and just checked in on us. But then he made it sound like we like had a hard out. Like we have to get it done. Like no matter what, within this time frame. And then I just like. We got done, and it was so hard to get a hold of him again. I thought he'd be like up our ass and like showing up. The only thing he just wanted to make sure of was he was getting paid. Yeah,
And
it like was harder to get him to come back, even though we all just assumed that he was gonna, like be showing up every 10 minutes to see if we were.
So we kept filming a little bit because he wasn't back yet. But by the time
Yeah,
that
right.
hard out time.
We started doing more stuff. Yeah.
so
Oh man.
So at this point, it's been a sprint for like 4 days straight, basically, or maybe 3 days straight. But no sleep, no rest, no breaks even. And then I think we had scheduled like a couple days off, right? Like I think there was like Thursday and Friday were days off. But Jesse, you had to shoot the wedding.
Yeah, I had a wedding, and you also had a completely different project.
No, so I was going to the south for the Ferris wheel shots, but I was also like, I was working with this guy Darren who owns the Ferris wheel about working on a video for them in exchange for doing this, for helping me with the Ferris wheel and donating the Ferris wheel, because like the Ferris wheel got donated. And let's be honest, like this project wasn't happening until I got a fucking Ferris wheel, because like that was the hardest part. And as soon as I got a Ferris wheel, I was like, okay, well we can do this. We can actually make this a reality. And I owe a lot to him. And that still, I haven't done that video for him. I have footage that I shot down there with no clear direction, because like we didn't have a clear deliverable in mind. And so I shot a bunch of kind of disparate random footage of their town with no message in mind. And I have this footage, and I have enough to make something, but at this point, like it's been a year, and the longer time passes between that me leaving there and me being here, the more it feels like I can't deliver something half-assed, you know? And the longer that time passes, the more impossible it becomes. So I'm at this point now where I've got like no idea what to do, and I haven't spoken with Darren, and I feel super guilty about that. But I don't know, like there's no real solution here for me.
Message and be like, hey Darren, it's been a while. I still have all this footage. I'd love to connect back. I looked through everything that we shot, and because not to backtrack a little bit, if I remember though, I don't know if you just said it, but that it rained or like something happened and it just wasn't what you were expecting anyway.
Yeah.
So hopefully his expectations really weren't like through the roof, because you can only do so much after everything from that perspective anyway.
Right.
But I would just say, listen, worst case scenario, I have all this footage and I'm happy to hand it over if you think that there's somebody that can do a better job. putting it together. You know places where it can work, like anything, so that you can connect the dots.
I just have to
I'm sure
swallow.
you'd be happy either way to receive anything.
I have to swallow my pride and the shame and the lack of communication over the last year, because that is hard for me. Like the further away it gets, the harder it becomes to reach out. Problem that I've actually been dealing with, like in my personal life, in a lot of ways, I'm more afraid of having the conversation and confronting the gap or the disappointment, and it just, you know, it causes, it just prolongs it, and then it makes the problem worse. Like it exacerbates the problem. So I need to just do it. I need to just reach out and be like, hey man, I want to make this work for you. These are the constraints that we have now, and this is what we have footage wise. Like, what can we make work? At this point, I think it's going to be a letdown no matter what, and that's part of the reason why I haven't reached out. But yeah, you're right. I just need to do it. I just need to like open the channel of communication again.
Well, it's just, I just find that people, at least at this point in my life, I just find that people respect honesty, because it's like, for real, if you feel like you can't deliver something and that's what's holding you back, and then the time just extends even farther, and then the pressure mounts even more, just like, it's so much easier to be like, listen, here's what I'm facing.
Yeah.
You know, I'm just being honest with you. I want to do this thing for you internally. I want to make this badass thing, but, you know, based off of the circumstances, you know, I was just upset that I didn't have more footage or couldn't really make this thing the way I wanted to.
And I might just be projecting.
I want to make sure we figure it out.
I might be projecting my expectations onto this that are not even aligned with his at all. Like, I could have maybe turned around and edit for him in like a couple months, and it would have been, you know, not the highest quality of deliverable, but it might have been exactly what he needed. And I don't even know that, because I never actually tried it. You know, I was just I got consumed by the edit of this film. But yeah, the
worst case scenario, he'll be a little upset, but honestly, I feel like he'd be happy to hear, you know, from you in general, because I'm sure he's still curious about like how things went with
the film.
You know,
yeah, he hasn't even seen it.
The film and everything else, right?
Yeah.
So
that's a good way to bridge it. Just be like, hey, here's the film. Also, what are we going to do with all this footage?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I should do that. So at this point, 3 or 4 days in with this dead sprint, and then we take a couple days break, and Jesse, you go and do the wedding. Like, how were you guys? Can you remember how you were feeling after the pizzeria stuff and the Ferrari stuff? Like, actually having a couple days off. Like, and Aaron, I think you were done at this point because you weren't going to South Carolina.
Yeah, I had to go back to work. Dude, I had felt so guilty. I was like, I can't believe I get to go to sleep tonight, and these guys, like, after how tired I was, after how much more stress those guys have been through than me, I was like, I can't believe I get to go to sleep tonight. Like, yeah, I have a week of work and edits ahead on my end, but like, does not compare to the amount that they still have to deal with the next few days.
Yeah, and it was only going to get more complicated, because I at this point still haven't cast the young characters, and I still don't know where the Ferris wheel's going, and like we're shooting a Ferris wheel, which none of us have ever done before. Mm-hmm. So like it was about to get way more stressful. I expected, at least. But because it was just me, you, and Jesse. Like AJ, like it was like 3 of us to run the rest of this production, where we had like 8 people before. Yeah. That was stupid, man. We shouldn't have done that. We should have.
And here you like child like rolls and everything.
Yeah. Oh man, that was.
They were all cool though. Like all the parents and both the kids were pretty easy to work with.
They're great. They were. I mean, a lot of things fell into place that probably shouldn't have ever happened, and ended up working out for the best. But like, so yeah, I get to. Well, first I want to hear, like, AJ, how are you feeling at this point after like this first sprint?
See, I can't remember exactly what happened.
You blacked out.
At the time, I think I needed to make sure like footage was backed up and like stuff was also like in the right spots, and that when I got back home, I think that day that we had, I was like transferring a lot of stuff to my backup hard drives too, just to make sure that like there's going to be no issue anywhere with anything. Because I think you, if I'm not mistaken, did you have to leave? We were able to miss the footage from South Carolina, right? Or did you?
Wait, say that again. You
Or did
broke.
you come back up? I don't remember.
You broke up for a minute. I need you to. Oh, I
Oh,
lost.
it's okay. I couldn't remember if you were. Oh no, because you drove back up with us. Never mind.
Yeah. So I left early.
I forgot.
I flew to South Carolina a couple days before everybody. I think you went back home, I assume, and then you backed up all the footage at home, and then you and Jesse.
Yeah, back to footage, but then I also had other clients that I was, trying to like make happy for
real work. Yeah, like paying people. Yeah.
Yeah. Just like making sure I sent out like a few things or like a random edit or something.
Yeah.
I don't remember how many days off, Jesse. I don't know if you can find out, but how many
Check the
days
call
we
sheets.
had to ourselves before we left.
I think it was 2.
It was that weekend. Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure we left Sunday morning or Monday morning.
You left
something like
twice,
that.
technically.
Yeah.
Well, it was the same day.
Somewhere in between that, I did the whole Dingman's Ferry run as well.
True.
And then obviously heading down, we had that big forgetfulness moment.
Yeah. So that was that was the last note I actually have on here.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about that in a second. But like, yeah. So did you rest at all during that time? Like when you had?
I think I got some decent sleep because I knew I was going to be driving down. I knew I needed to actually like get some rest in order to make that drive like worthwhile.
Yeah.
Or not like,
Yeah.
do anything stupid.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Jess, did you get any rest?
Jesse ran away.
We lost Jesse.
Yeah. I was looking for.
You have a binder of documents.
This is the wrong binder. I have a binder somewhere with all the information in it, but I got like, not really because I had that wedding. So like that Friday after the pizzeria stuff, I pretty much went directly to shoot a wedding. And then since it's an Indian wedding, it's like multiple days. So
Right.
that Saturday I also had like a 10-hour day.
Ugh.
And then I think we left Sunday. So I didn't, unless we had off Sunday, but I don't remember.
Well, no, I don't remember either. Yeah, I don't remember, but I know that you weren't driving, so that was probably helpful. And yeah, so I spent 2 days trying to gather footage for these guys for the video that we're gonna make of them, and also just scouting locations for where to put the Ferris wheel. Driving around bumblefuck South Carolina, like I've never been to a town like, and I come from bumblefuck New Jersey, and this place was so strange to me and so foreign. This really quaint southern town with like one main street and like old buildings on either side of it, and they were having. I went down there early because they were having like a town block party or something, and then I was gonna shoot that with like my gear, which is my A7S II and like the gimbal and whatever, and it ended up raining and basically ruining the whole day for this event, and I didn't get any. I got some footage, but it wasn't that great, and also it was like I was exhausted too and didn't really have the energy to.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm still casting at this point. I'm still trying to find kids. I was literally at this block party looking for kids. Like, hey, you want to act? You want to be in a film? Like, come and get my. No, I didn't really do that.
All right, I got the schedule now. So we drove down Sunday morning. Then AJ and I got the Sunset Ferris wheel shot.
Oh.
Slept, and then the whole next day was the final day of production.
Right,
So it was that Sunday and then a Monday.
So you drove down. So you leave Sunday and you leave without the urn, which is like a critical prop, which is the prop.
Yeah,
So the main character.
How far were we?
What?
Were we near Baltimore or we were near Wilmington? I know we were at least an hour and a half away already.
Because I remember you called your family to pick up the prop,
Yeah.
and we met them halfway.
We met them halfway. So we were in Baltimore.
Mhm.
And that's when I realized. And I asked my mother or my brother or one of them, if they could meet me at my sister's house, which was essentially halfway in Delaware. And I was like, I mean, it could kind of work because then at least like.
Because we were racing against the
Oh, it
sun.
was somebody's birthday party.
Yeah.
They were already
somebody's
there.
birthday.
Yeah, they were already going.
they were there anyway, so I was like, all right, this is fine. So
Yeah.
we lost a total of 3 hours of driving, but I think we got there pretty damn close to like a decent time for the Ferris wheel,
For the sunset.
which was nice.
So we were shooting a decaying Ferris wheel, right? That's what it was. It was like
yeah, we were shooting a decaying Ferris wheel that was still a bit away from where we were actually shooting the rest of the stuff.
way out of the way. It was like, I called this guy, I think the day of or the day before, and he was like, he didn't answer. So I was like, I don't know. I know that he does things with this Ferris wheel. I know that it's been on TV, and he was like not answering me. And then you guys went and you shot it, and then
I was just ready if somebody asked me something. It was only like me and a backpack and a camera, and the woods were so overgrown over there that honestly the only people that could see that would be there is if somebody was like not in a car,
right,
and just like somewhere walking.
Yeah.
When you went down there, you were gone. It was like, I don't know where you went. You could be dead. You were just completely...
I wasn't too afraid, and I looked it up online. There were so many people that had like, I think that's what made us decide. We had looked it up on Instagram, and there were so many people just taking photos with it and like, it was so public anyway that I was like, screw it.
And it wasn't like someone's house. Like, it's on a property that is like a farm or something.
Oh, yeah, it wasn't. No, there was like
it was just like a neighborhood.
Houses a bit away, and then it was a huge lot of just overgrown stuff.
Yeah.
So you just stumbled across this, or you
no?
Look it up before you
I was doing so much research on like decaying Ferris wheels, and there's only a few on the East Coast. There's one in Kentucky on the side of the road. Actually, Darren, the guy who owns this Ferris wheel that we used, the working one, he sent me this one in an email early on and was like, "Hey, this one isn't exactly like mine, but it's close enough. I think it could work." And then I found this one. I think it was West Virginia, maybe. That the one you went to was in, and yeah, just basically use Google Maps or Google Earth or something to find. And then I found like location, like more photos of it. And then there's a couple abandoned place vloggers that like have been there to both of these, and like I looked at their videos and I was like, this could work. And it was like a last resort. It was really like a last resort, and because we didn't have permission to be there, like I was like, okay, just grab the footage and like I'll try to work on permission after the fact, like, you know, apologize for it, you know. And
I just remember getting there the second the sun was going down.
Yeah.
Like we had minutes to get the shot we needed.
Exactly, and I think.
And I guess I can tell you now, Eddie, but when we got there originally, and I to this day am so upset with myself because we drove so long to get there. Jesse watched me somehow magically cut like an hour and a half off of the time, like the estimated time to get down there, so that we would meet it for sunset.
So you sped, you like broke all the traffic laws.
I don't know what you're talking about, but we got
Shit, dude.
But I was so upset because literally, like, probably about 2 minutes before I finally was able to get to where I needed to go and hit the record button, the sun was like perfectly hitting it from the side and had such a gorgeous backlight that as I'm literally getting out of the car and I'm like, this is gonna look so awesome, and I finally like get there and put my camera down, and it just like the sun goes over the hill. I'm like,
I'm really glad you didn't tell me that before.
If I a few more fucking minutes driving, I would have had this epic thing.
If we had just remembered the urn. Yeah, but you know what's funny is we turned that into a night shot, so it actually worked out better.
Yeah, that's also true.
Yeah,
you're right.
So
it didn't matter anyway.
Yeah. Oh man, that's So you ended up getting that shot and coming down, and I think I put you guys up in the hotel with me. Like we shared a hotel room, right? And I slept on on the floor or something. Or did I sleep on the couch?
A couch, a bed, and then their mattress.
Yeah, and so I was already exhausted at this point because of running around with Darren, who Darren has like some of the strangest friends. That town is so weird. And do you remember my Instagram stories of like the couple that was like hanging out with us with that beat up car? Do you remember like the like really beat up Ford Explorer, and she was driving it around? It had no windows, had no interior. It had like a welded shut door. I was
so mad that I wasn't there.
I spent 2 days like kind of just like getting to know the town, which was really cool. And his family's so sweet, and his sons are like his sons and his daughter, they're homeschooled, so they don't have like a lot of interaction with other kids, I guess. But so when I got there, I was like, I felt like a big brother, and like we were just hanging out there, teaching me how to play Pokemon and like and the what's that game that kids play on the Switch, and Fortnite. They were yeah. See, I'm so disconnected from that world. So they were teaching me how to play Fortnite and stuff. And that was really cool. And then you guys got there, and I had locked the location for the pawn shop with that guy. His name was also Chris, I think, and he was like super nice. And like what I thought was interesting about that was I called him beforehand, before we even went to South Carolina, and I was like, hey, I'm shooting a movie in like the town over, and I need a pawn shop, and yours has the perfect location. Like I looked at his, I think I framed that shot on Google Maps before we even went there, and I was like, this is it. And I asked him if we could shoot there. It would be like an hour or something, and he was like, I don't know, maybe come in and talk to me, and we'll figure it out. And I was like, okay, is there any way I can convince you? Like I have the budget, I have the, like it's a small amount of time. And he was like, yeah, come talk to me. So I was like, well, I'll be there on Saturday. Can I come in and see? He was like, I'm not open on Saturday. I'm like, Sunday? He's like, no. I'm like, okay, Monday, the day we have to shoot. And I don't know at this point if I'm allowed to like shoot there, but I go there first thing in the morning, and I walk into the shop, and I'm like, hey, Chris, I'm Eddie. We talked on the phone. I was wondering if I could shoot here. And he was like, yeah, it's fine. I just wanted you to come in, like speak to me in person. And I'm like, I respect that. I respect that, but I really wish you would have given me a little bit more idea. Because if he said no, I didn't have a backup plan. So,
No.
yeah.
That makes sense, because when we got there, we were looking at other shops.
Yeah.
Like, and you were like, do you think worst case, like, we can make this work if we don't have them come out the door, or like something like that?
Yeah.
Then you went in and you're like, yeah, everything's fine. Yep.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah, he was like, yeah, cool, we'll do whatever you need. And he even ended up being an actor in it. Like he was the pawn shop guy. Yeah, so that was really cool. And I think I'd cast the kids one day before, or 2 days before, I cast young Henry, who looked just like Dan.
Dude, that was insane.
And the kid was from that town. Like that was his town basically. It was unbelievable. Like as soon as like at first I think he sent me a self tape, and I didn't really like it, or I didn't pay attention to it, and I was like, there are other options. And I also had Madison, who was I really liked her, the girl who looked like Marilyn Monroe. Like I had her for a young Ava, and I was like, I need to find a young Henry that's the same age. And she was asking friends, and we were trying to find other people. And I was calling agencies, I was calling schools. I was like, I need somebody. I was posting in Facebook groups. I was doing everything that I could in the 2 days before you guys got there to try to find someone of her age to no avail. Like she had a friend who was available, but like not the hours that we needed. And then like basically I had to pull the trigger and be like, okay, I'm gonna find a younger version, because I have a potential young Henry, and I can find a young Ava if I have to. So I went back and revisited the headshots, and I saw Gage again for the first time, and I was like, this is Dan. Like this is young Dan. This is perfect. And I was so excited that I didn't consider going back to his self-tape or asking him like to like do another audition or anything, because we just didn't have time. So I was like, guys, can you be here at this time for this much money? And they were like, yeah, cool. And I was like, great, it's settled. And then I found Camilla, and she was, I think, 3 or 4 years older than Gage. And she was available, and they were like, yeah, we'll be there. Here's some outfit options. And I was like, oh, you guys are super helpful. So this is great. And, yeah, I didn't know that Gage had never acted before, so that was quite a shock when we got to
or kiss the girl.
So Gage has never acted. He's never kissed a girl, and he was about to do both at the same time. So the first day we get to the pawn shop, and I meet these people. This is also my first time working with my second time working with kids. My first time working with kids on a narrative project, and Gage was so nervous that he wouldn't look anybody in the eyes. Like I introduced myself, and he was like, he like shook my hand, but he was like looking over here, and he just like kept like kind of lingering close to his mom. And Camilla was like the opposite. She was like really outgoing, really like excited and enthusiastic, and she had done some acting. Like I picked her because her reel was great. Like she had TV experience even, I think, or like I don't know, her demo reel was really decent. And yeah, the pawn shop stuff, there wasn't really any talking. It was just them running, right? And I think Gage fell at some point. Remember, he like tripped and fell in the dirt.
Oh yeah.
And that was like that.
A little too quick.
Oh, that made it a little bit awkward for him at first, but we got the shots, and it was really cute. And they had good chemistry. And the thing that was beautiful about this was that Henry's character being the way that he was as an adult, like kind of shifty and like kind of weird, it made so much sense that he was a nervous young kid, and that like she was the opposite, and like that made sense that they would be that bonded because or that he would be that hung up on it still to this day because like she was the leader, you know, and he was the follower, and like he needed her, and like now that she wasn't in his life, it just made so much sense, and his nerves and his anxiety actually worked for the character really well. I don't know what I would have done if the roles were reversed. If like Henry was supposed to be the confident one, it would have been a nightmare because like Gage was just not that. Like, and that made sense, but it ended up working really well for his character. And so then, yeah, we went with Darren to set up for the Ferris wheel. I think did you guys come with me to like check out the spot first and then figure out where we wanted to put the Ferris wheel?
Yeah, we were there.
I think we were there.
The day before?
I mainly remember being in the Waffle House for a while. As
Yeah.
we were going up the lines.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
Wait.
We got there, and I think we couldn't find a way in, or like
It was locked.
the
Yeah.
gate was locked, or we couldn't figure that out. Then we got there and we looked around, and then you guys showed up shortly afterwards, and I was just
Dude.
I was like, you can either do it here, here, or here, but we were trying to do it to avoid the highway, I think.
Yeah, we were trying to avoid
So
the highway
like,
for
based
this.
on what the background was.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
we had that decaying Ferris wheel in the field, and we wanted to try to match that field in a way with the flashback Ferris wheel. But so
Right.
like we had very limited options. That field ended up being really perfect because it was like 3 minutes from Darren's house, and it was a big field, and it was open to us.
Yeah.
So I think the day before you got
Until
there,
that guy showed up.
I wanted to
Like,
talk.
what are you guys doing here?
No.
Yeah.
Oh, there was two different guys. Do you remember like? Oh, well, before I get into that, I spent like a couple days driving around that town looking for locations and getting videos, and I sat in that Waffle House by myself like the day before, and this guy, I think his name was Sean, like was working there, and he started talking to me, and I just wanted to eat my like waffles, like chicken and waffles, and just like focus on my whatever, but he kept like asking me questions and like saying like I think when I told him I was making a film, he got like really excited, and then he started telling me about his like personal life. Like I at some point stopped talking entirely, and he was talking for like 25 minutes about his personal life, and I learned so much about this dude's personal life in that time. And like his coworkers, I was the only one in the Waffle House. His coworkers are walking around and they're like this is just normal, like he just does this all the time, and like basically this like pseudo Waffle House confessional happening. And he was telling me about how like he's 21, he has 4 kids, he's not with any of the women that he had the kids with, and he like is living on his own, and the girls spend time with their mothers, but they also live at his house, and like he doesn't have a relationship with his parents, and his mother is with this guy that like his mother's with this guy that molested his daughter, and his mother won't admit it, and like he's telling me about this family drama, and I'm just like I'm like trying to be really polite, and it was super awkward, but that was basically my experience in Blacksburg. Like it was like we had people just excited to talk to us, you know, and like that guy came up, and when we first got into the field, that dude on the lawnmower, he rolls in on his ride-on lawnmower, and I'd seen that guy like 3 times around town, just riding around on his lawnmower, not mowing any grass, just going around town, and he comes up and he starts talking to me, and this dude sounds just like Boomhauer, like from King of the Hill, like he was just and I was just like, yeah, yeah, man. And like he kept talking, and I was like, I'm not sure if we're even in a conversation right now. It was so interesting. And then as that guy was like mumbling, that other dude came up and was like, what are you doing on this property? And I think he was he the owner of the property, or was he just like a friend of the owner? I don't remember.
The guy that came by, I think
in the
he was
truck.
a friend of the owner.
Yeah, he was like,
actually owned.
he was like, how did you get
Yeah.
in here? Like, what are you doing here? And I was like, well, clearly I have keys, because like the lock is still
And
there.
he just wanted to make sure you're okay.
Yeah.
And then you dropped whoever the Ferris wheel guy was, and if I'm not mistaken, he didn't know who he was at first until like he showed up, and he's like, oh, this, I know. It's like, what?
It was it was
left there.
what?
Didn't something get left?
Oh,
there
no.
and
That's
called him to see if he can-
that's
We'll
another
get to
thing.
that.
That dude, I still have
That guy
nightmares.
though, right?
I still have nightmares about that
Yeah.
night. So we ended up shooting the night sequence of the Ferris wheel the first night, like with the kids and like all the game stuff set up and the Ferris wheel lit up and everything, and it was like really beautiful and it was really nice. And Darren packed up the game trailer and got that out of there and left the Ferris wheel, and we ended up leaving super late that night, and we had to drive 30 minutes or 45 minutes back to the town that we were staying in because there are no hotels in Blacksburg. So we had to drive to the town over to go to sleep, and we couldn't leave because the lock was missing. Remember, like the lock to the field was missing, and that guy had just told us that there were people that were stealing like expensive equipment from the property, and he was wondering if that's what we were doing. And I was like, oh, well, that's weird for us to just hang around if we're stealing shit. But yeah, I understand the concern.
And that's what it was. We had this like big moral dilemma of like, do we just fucking go, or do we just like deal with this?
Do we leave the gate unlocked? And I think we were standing there at the gate at like 1 in, like debating whether or not we should leave, and like you swore you heard people or saw people in the distance like down the road.
I heard people. I thought I heard people down in the distance or like with flashlights or something.
And you also said
we were pretty high up.
You thought that somebody stole the lock while we were working to clean up so they could come back and then open the gate later. And like
it was also late. I might have been like
no, but the
crazy stories in my mind.
But the lock was missing, so it like definitely validated your concern.
It was gone.
So I was like, I'm so tired and we have such an early day tomorrow. I don't know what to do. I just want to go to sleep. We have to drive 35 minutes still. So we ended up going back to the town over. You guys went to sleep, I think. I went to Walmart at 2 in the morning to the 24-hour Walmart, and I bought a padlock and a chain, and I drove all the way back, and I locked this gate, and it almost didn't even fit. Like, I couldn't... Here's the fucked up part. I bought a padlock that was in a plastic container that I couldn't open because I didn't have a knife or scissors. So I was standing there for 15 minutes with my teeth trying to open this lock.
This is a Curb Your Enthusiasm episode. This literally happened in Curb Your Enthusiasm. Larry David bought a lock.
It was so... And like... At this point, I had gone to Walmart and I was already back, and it's like 3 in the morning now, and I'm already super tired, but I'm here and I have the lock and I can't open it. And I'm like, I just want to fucking lock this gate. And I'm like, I was so frustrated that I was like scanning the area to see if there were anyone around, if anything had been missing, because I was gonna bail again. I was gonna be like, no, fuck it, I'll just hang the lock on with the plastic on this gate and say I tried. But I ended up getting the lock open and locking it, and then driving home so angry at everything that had just happened and so tired. And getting into the hotel and like not even like brushing my teeth or anything, just collapsing onto the floor and just like sleeping for a few hours. And then I think I woke up a couple hours later and I was like, all right, we have to get this shit started. I went and bought breakfast for everyone, and we went back there and I opened the lock, and I think that they were like, why is this lock on this gate? And I was like, yeah, your lock was missing. So I don't know, man. I had to do something, and they appreciated it. They definitely appreciated it, but I think they also felt like it was a little bit ridiculous that I went through all of that trouble to do that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did they find it somewhere? I don't remember.
No, I don't think that they ever found the lock, but they did say that they were going to replace mine because my lock was bullshit, I think is what the sentiment was. Like, because they were
That's
like,
hilarious.
your lock is pointless. And I was like, don't tell me that, because I worked so hard. I worked so hard to get this. Yeah, so then we ended up shooting the day stuff with the kids at the Ferris wheel, and that stuff went really well. Actually, I think we shot that the day before. We shot the day stuff with Henry and Natalie, which actually, that was another thing. The next morning, I had to drive like 2 hours to Charlotte, the big city in North Carolina, right? Is that what it's called?
Charlotte, North Carolina. Charlottesville is another place.
I don't know where that is. I had to drive to Charlotte with my fucking Scion TC 5-speed rental to go pick them up. And there was just a weird energy between them because they had spent so much time together, I guess, and and Dan was in a weird mood, and like Renee was really tired, and like everyone was just like miserable in the car. So that was an hour and a half of driving down there to shoot with them, and then I think we scrambled at the end of getting those shots, but I think we got everything that we needed, and things ended up being really nice. And then we realized at some point that Dan was wearing the ring on the wrong finger the entire film. He was wearing it on his right ring finger. And we're like, who the fuck wears a ring on their right hand? That's never, like, your wedding ring goes on your left. Am I crazy? And Dan was like, yeah, I don't know. I think it's fine.
How did you resolve the ring thing?
We cut that. It ended up getting cut out of that. Oh, I found the ring. Yeah. The ring was in my... The ring was. Oh my god! I forgot about this. The ring was in my backpack.
You told us the frustration.
It was in the top compartment of my backpack, like the most obvious place, and I didn't look there. That's just how stressed out I was. That I didn't. I looked everywhere else. I even went like into my parents' cars, like looking in there, and like I didn't think to check the top. Yeah. Oh man, I'm angry just talking about that. Yeah. So we ended up getting all those shots that day, and like we got a really pretty sunset shot with the kids the day before in that tunnel. I love that shot so much. And then
that shot's great.
and then matching that with Henry and Natalie, and that was I love that sequence. I think that sequence, even if you don't understand the story at that point, even if you don't know what's happening or why things are working, that sequence is just like nostalgic and fun and really pretty. And I'm really happy with how that came out. And it didn't match the storyboards. It didn't match the script at all in the final edit. It ended up making way more sense the way it's cut together now, and I think it works better rhythmically. And I'm happy with that. I think the visuals were great, and like AJ, we were really struggling with sound and stuff.
Oh man.
Yeah, but we skipped over a really important moment, which was the night before with the Ferris wheel, with the kids on the Ferris wheel and Gage's first kiss, which was so. We didn't rehearse it because I didn't want to rehearse it because I secretly wanted to get his first kiss on camera. Like I wanted to get it, and I wanted it to be kind of awkward, and I wanted to see if I could use. And it's in the film. Like the one I use in the film is his actual first kiss.
His actual first ever. Wow.
Yeah, and you can see he looks. His eyes are open the whole time when he's kissing her, and he's like super stiff. And you can see when he turns.
What other lips feel like.
when she initiates the kiss, when she starts to lean in, you can see it in his face that he's like fucking terrified, and it's adorable. And
oh, it's so good.
And then we shook the Ferris wheel to like pretend like the Ferris wheel was starting up, and they like break the kiss, and he spikes the camera because he's super nervous, and then he looks away and he's like it's like the most awkward laugh. It's so cute. And so like then we did like after it was over, after his first kiss was over, I was like, you did it, man. Like that's it. It's like congratulations on your first kiss, and like the hard part is over. And then I think each take after that got a little bit less awkward and a little bit like more natural. He was still very stiff, but Camilla handled it so well. She talked to him about it first, and they like tried to prep each other for it, and like he was very honest. He was very nervous, and she like basically held his hand through the whole thing, like metaphorically and literally at some points, I think. So like it was really sweet, and it worked really well. And as soon as we wrapped for the night, as soon as I was like, okay, that's a wrap, Gage runs off, and I hear him yelling to his mom, "Mom, I kissed a girl 4 times, and I loved it." And I was like, it was so funny.
I loved it.
It was so funny. He was so proud of himself, and that we're like Jesse and I were talking about like that dude's gonna be the man. He kissed a 16-year-old. He's like basically he's a freshman, and she would have been a junior, I guess. Yeah, his first kiss was
too high.
Yeah, yeah. Now his expectations are like
anyone. I'm gonna be an a-hole now.
Yeah. So I think that was really cool to be able to experience that with him and them for the first time, and like to get that in my film, and to like for them to be open enough to do that was so cool. Like it was, yeah. There were so many experiences throughout that process that were just like crazy life experiences that I probably never would have had otherwise. You know, the people that I met, like the friendships that I formed, the stories that happened outside of the actual production, like incredible experience for me. Like and it made me like hungry for more like things like that. But I also wonder if it's not as indie as it was the way we did it, will it be as interesting? Will it be as fun? Like if it's, you know, a TV series, you know, that's like very regimented. It's very strict. It's very, you know, it's a job at that point. I think if you're doing a series, or if you're doing like a big budget film even, and I feel like part of the fun was just in breaking shit and having to solve it, you know, which I guess still happens.
I think it's a mix of it becomes more strict and less of that happens, but there's always going to be problems that needed solving, and there's always going to be some crazy story that happens.
Yeah.
But you're right. Like the bigger the budget, the less that does happen.
Yeah.
The less magic, I guess.
But is it possible to sustain that with the like bigger crews and bigger ideas and like I mean I obviously we're all hypothesizing, but I would like to believe that you can keep that intimacy still on your sets in even bigger productions.
Yeah, you don't know what's going to happen until you get there. Like, no matter how big of a budget, I mean, you can pay as much money as you want to try to make something happen, but like,
Yeah.
I don't know, there's going to be like the time's going to get pushed back. The actor's not available anymore. That happens on big budgets.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that I mean you guys have all seen the draft of the film. I think it looks a lot bigger than it actually was budget wise. I mean, considering we had a Ferris wheel and a Ferrari and kids. I think it looks
Yeah,
really
all
good.
that stuff definitely helps the production values. Like the Ferris wheel is definitely a big get.
Yeah.
Like, oh, this is like an actual short film. You know?
Yeah, and shooting with AJ made it like a legit production. I think versus me running around with my A7S. Like, yeah.
I mean, yeah. Well, that's the thing is like, and that's what a lot of people don't know about me though. I got into the agency world and got into like filming stuff for clients and trying to make that a business. But to be honest, the main reason why I invested in any of my gear, period, was to do narrative film stuff. Because my whole idea there was like, because I wanted to do more narrative, and I knew for myself I wanted to do more narrative. And it was like, by the time you end up paying for all these damn rentals, you're better off like investing that money in something.
Yeah. It's interesting that you chose.
Rental house and stuff.
Why did you choose the red ecosystem for narrative stuff? Because like
I grew up with all the red ecosystem stuff, but the thing is like, grew up in graduate school with all that. And the thing is like, as a previous photographer, I literally fell in love with just the raw workflow. That's really it, because I love the ability to essentially, from an indie perspective, which some people hate the idea and some people love the idea, depends on what side you're on, but from an indie perspective, sometimes you don't have a big crew and sometimes you don't get to make everything perfect the second that you get on set. If your color value's off a little bit, or like the light color temperature is like off the slightest bit and you need to fix it later, or this or that, or you want to frame larger and punch in after the fact. Like, it allows you so much more opportunity. Yeah, exposure. Anything in post-production that you want to kind of like fix or manipulate, it's so much easier.
Yeah.
Especially for like my agency work where a lot of it is run and gun. And I love being able to like shoot. And if I'm underexposed by like a little bit, I'm not shooting in ProRes and like it's stuck like that. I still have the ability to fix anything after the fact. So that's why I love it.
The reason I asked this is because like I've been speaking a bit with other production companies here and stuff and about like future narrative stuff, and it seems like Ari is the way that people like to go with narrative stuff, at least in commercial. Like when I was working with the guys in Maine, they were like, yeah, red's mostly an agency thing, I think.
Well, no, I think everybody's just wrong because I think wrong. Sorry. Not saying red's the best by any means, and not saying Ari's the best by any means, but it's also like Ari has gained this reputation of being this staple point because between their like old film cameras and their light systems and everything and their ecosystem, they grew up from the old days when things started, and that just become the trusted name, everything else.
Right.
And so I think, when it comes to it as well, is a lot of, and not to be a jerk, but a lot of the people who I think just rep Ari hard as hell have also probably never really tried anything in the red ecosystem to the point to see if like it is comparable or compatible, because I think if you know what you're doing, you can make either camera look good. And if you really, and not, if you really want to be a part of the problem, you can either say one is better than the other. I think they're both great cameras. For me, I just like having a red, the raw workflow.
But I think
it's just like super important to my personality.
And I think a lot of people don't like the raw workflow because it's like it's a pain in the ass in post for people that aren't used to it.
But it's also changing very fast. but just with like computer systems, I think back in the day when Red first came out and you needed their Red Red Rocket card to like put in your computer to even play back the files or blah 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 or make proxies. Now, I mean, I can make a ProRes proxy right from camera at the same time I'm filming Red raw, or make them overnight on my computer and hand them off the next day. If I really had a DIT, I could be making them the same time that I'm filming.
Yeah.
And for the next set of cameras, who knows what's going to happen, but.
Well, Blackmagic is starting to switch things up with Blackmagic Raw, which is like
that's
crazy.
True. You're right. And then you have even for Blackmagic now even their little monitors can record RAW as well.
Yeah, on different camera systems, which is nuts.
Yeah, right, exactly. And then you got ProRes RAW.
I didn't know that.
Just finally coming around. They just put out their Windows support like last week, and who knows? We'll see what happens. But yeah, I understand that about the industry. I know it also puts me in a weird position because I think, I don't think I could really get high-end New York work. I could probably get it with maybe like my newish reel whenever I finish that up, but I could never get it saying like, hey, I also own equipment and blah blah blah, because they'd be the first to be like, yeah, that sounds great and all, but we want to shoot this on an Alexa Mini or an Alexa Mini LF or blah 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 blah. So
right. Yeah, exactly.
It goes either way. It's just always upsetting when people are so sure. When I hear people are so sure about like, or say that like Red cameras suck or like something, it's like I've seen a lot of gorgeous stuff.
I love what we shot. I only have like a very small frame of reference because I got to work with you on this, but I think it's pretty what we shot. Like I think it's way better than I could have ever imagined, and that was super fucking cool to experience and to see that level of quality. And I didn't think it was like, for me editing it, I didn't have an issue because I think you made it super easy. Like I didn't have to worry about the proxies generating them myself, and I didn't have to worry about like the like the color, the first pass of color.
That's what I love too. Right. Yeah, doing that first pass of color after you wrap, or just spending like 2 hours on that, just making everything look as nice as possible right out the bat. And then if you ever want to send it off to somebody for color, all they literally need to do is just hit a button and turn off what I did, and they're back to like log footage, and they can do whatever they want.
Yeah.
But it's nice for clients too, or like when I am sending out the first cut of something, and nobody's like, is the color going to look like that when the movie's done? And
I've had people tell me like, don't color correct this, or I'm glad you color corrected this, and I'm like, I didn't do anything to it. Like it came this way. but I have had people like I've expressed wanting to get it graded, and people being like, no, what do you mean? It is graded. I don't understand. Like the only thing that really needs it is that drone footage to match at the end, and maybe the top down thing that we did when it came back, like to match even a little bit better. But I mean, it does look. It looks really nice.
Yeah, I mean, I could even the drone footage. I have a lot that should match the Red footage pretty damn close. So I could give that to you.
Yeah, please. I think I tried to do it myself. Ugh.
Yeah, it's okay.
I'm so bad at color. Like I've tried my hand at color before, and it's.
Try Lumetri has literally a color match option also.
Dude, I don't know, man.
Or you can select the other shot that you want.
Nope, never done. I've never done that. Also, you're talking about like at the time that I was editing this short film, I was on my 2013 MacBook. Right. That kind of shit did not work. Like especially with like 4K footage or the drone stuff. Like I couldn't even play back the drone footage. Like I had to just trust that it was in the right. Yeah.
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 Well, now you have an H.265 decoding chip in your.
Yeah, this thing, I have this beautiful new MacBook Pro, and I have hardly taken advantage of it. I need to really start shooting more and doing more, and I'm actually starting to, so I'm excited about that. Actually, that's a good segue. So, I want to talk about what you guys are working on, what you've been doing since this production wrapped, and all of that, all the exciting stuff for the future. But first, I want to ask you, so I spent like a week after we wrapped production, one day sleeping. I spent like an entire day sleeping, I think, the day after we wrapped. As soon as I got back to New Jersey, I like remember walking into my room and then I think I was out for like 24 hours or something. I don't think I moved. But after I came out of hibernation, I went obsessively back into hibernation working on the edit. Like I think I pumped out the first draft of the edit based on the notes that Jenna took in like I think 5 or 6 days, maybe even less, with audio, like with some music and everything. And remember being like super excited about it, and then playing it for my sister or my dad or something on my monitor, and the response being like not at all what I wanted, but there were still things missing. There were still like inserts missing. There was still sequences that weren't completely cut together. And then I think Aaron, you came over and you took a look at some things and you made some suggestions and we tweaked some things, and I felt like it was moving in a direction that was making more sense. But I also realized very quickly that the film was not going to be what I hoped it was going to be, and that was so hard to. It was kind of devastating because I didn't want to admit it. I didn't want to believe it, especially after everything that we had done. So I don't think I let myself admit that or believe it right away. And then I made another pass at the edit after a week of taking some time off, and I started to feel like maybe we needed reshoots, and that wasn't a reality or a possibility. And then I started to feel like maybe this is a lost cause. And I think after like 3 weeks of editing and picking and pushing, I eventually stopped because I needed to focus on other things. And it might have even been like a couple months of that. And I was at a loss. Like I didn't know what to do. And I stopped working on it. I think I stopped talking about it. And I think people started asking me about it. And every time someone would ask me about it, I'd be like, yeah, man, I don't know. I really don't know. I'm kind of ashamed of it, you know?
I think like you revisited what? You came back in November. It was right after I got my new car. So it was November. And then you showed me like this dramatically newer cut that I was like, wow, this is a different film. This is so good.
So in June, I think I pushed so far that I was like, I did it. I fixed it. I made it work. And then I screened it, and it still didn't work. And people were still not understanding it. They were missing the story. It was too much for a short film. And I knew that going into it. I actually had a couple people say that to me. And I recognized that was a possibility, that it would be too much for a short film. But I felt like it was structured in a way that all the information was there. All the information that you needed for it to make sense was there. And even the questions that I was getting after people watched it, I was like, it's there. Like you did you see that part? And they're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. But they weren't getting it when they were watching it, which was the hard part for me. So the hardest lesson I learned was the way it reads on script is not the way it came through in the edit. And that has everything to do with me as a director, I think, and as a writer. So I think my writing isn't as strong as it needs to be, and my directing definitely isn't as strong as it needs to be. Because when you're reading something, you can read it at your own pace. You can generate the images as they make sense to you. But when you're watching something, you're at the mercy of the director. You're like at the mercy of their pacing, their rhythm, and the way they communicate what's happening on the page. And that, like, the relationships between characters was a big thing. There was a lot of talking in the first 2 cuts where I tried to establish that Natalie was Henry's granddaughter, and that Mary, his daughter, wasn't in the picture anymore because she was frustrated. And then there was this dynamic between the pizza boy and the uncle, and like nobody was getting those. And then when you get to the point, the really sad moment on the couch, and Henry mistakes Natalie for his daughter, that's super sad. But if you don't know who they are, it's just fucking sentimental for no reason. And you're like, huh? Why is he crying? I don't like this. Yeah. So I say all this to ask you guys how you feel about the final product, and like, to be totally honest, because at this point I've already beat the shit out of it for myself, and I accept it for what it is, and I'm actually so proud of it at this point that whatever you were to say, like now or however you were feeling when I first showed it to you, is not gonna hurt my feelings at all. So I'm curious what you felt the first time you watched the first draft.
The first time we watched the first draft up until seeing the most recent cut, or just anything you want to throw out there,
the first link that I shared to you when I was still in New Jersey, maybe even.
Got it. I think it's also tough because and I think this is something that I always have a challenge with watching the first thing of anything that I work on, is it takes a little bit to kind of disassociate yourself, because I knew what was happening on the couch. I knew this other thing. And when you watch it from that perspective, you're getting all these story cues that like somebody who's totally random, like has no idea what's actually happening first time viewing
True.
would never pick up on. So seeing it for first time, I think for myself it was like, oh nice, like almost all of it like
Is
cuts
there.
together.
Yeah.
Some sections that were like
We had
a
coverage.
little long, like him walking through the house and some other stuff that I was like, you know, and some things I was also looking at, I was like, he just needs to clean this up or like cut it shorter. But I don't think I had like any huge major like gripes or remarks. But for me, that's the thing. Also, a filmmaker looking at an in progress project, I also knew that over time it was probably gonna get truncated.
Yeah.
So it's more like, here's what I see for right now, and I assume that changes are still going to be made. So
Yeah.
sometimes I don't get super involved other than like a few initial reactions. But
Yeah. You guys feel that as well? Because it does make sense that you can't detach from what you already know about the story.
Yeah, that's always tricky for me with anything I do, to where it's just like AJ said, distancing yourself and knowing if things actually work or not from the audience's perspective is always tricky.
Yeah.
It's always a tricky thing.
Yeah.
But in terms of, I honestly don't remember what the first cut was because I've kind of seen a bunch of them.
Yeah.
But I do remember loving the whole torture sequence. And just, like, on the script, I was like, I wasn't sure how this is going to come together. But then seeing what you did with it.
Interesting.
With, like, the music and everything, it was like, all right, this really came together. It was really fun.
That scene is so divisive because I've had people say like, "Oh, that's amazing! Like, I love that," and people be like, "Please cut that down to like 10 seconds because that's so annoying, like, and not in a good way." I'm like, yeah, I actually think it's annoying and it's meant to be, and that's the point. That's like it's meant to be annoying. That's the essence of that scene. But yeah, I think that scene came out great. I think it came out better than, and that scene really barely changed from the first draft to the last draft. I mean, I did truncate it a little bit, but it's like the annoying parts are there, which is what I wanted. I did cut out entirely that Monopoly joke, which was not landing with a lot of people, which I thought worked on paper more than it worked in the actual script or on the screen.
See, I have the opposite of that. On paper, I was like, I don't know if this is gonna work, and then I think the visual gag worked. It's like
the punch-in helped.
Seeing his reaction.
Yeah, and his reaction. His reaction and the punch-in on her really helped, or punch-out.
Yeah, and her just like, oh, okay, I guess that worked. All right.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know, man. It's tough. It's definitely tough. I think the most recent cut is better, but still, it's not a great short film. And the positive feedback that I got, I mean, story-wise, I think it's a beautiful film, and I think it has a lot of really important, impressive moments to it. But like story-wise, I think it was just too much. It was too much for a short film, and it was like not enough time to be with the characters. It was not enough time to experience and to empathize with them because there's so much character in them.
You gotta learn that at some point, and you'll never learn that as a director by somebody telling you until you make that mistake. That's definitely one, I think, especially something story related. I don't think you'll ever recognize it unless you do it and fail at it.
Yeah.
Because especially with my thesis, that's exactly what I learned. I learned, holy crap, I tried to pack in like characters that were in each other's minds and time travel and science things and like mystery and like post-apocalyptic, and it's like, holy shit, you know, I probably should have just chose like two things, and maybe the third can kind of hang over a little bit, but I was just, let's put it all on. And that's something that I struggle with even now, where I think as a filmmaker, I'm always trying to make connections, or director, writer, whatever, between all these different things, and I love science. So like the project I'm working on now, I literally have a gigantic document of like crazy science things that I could link together to make this all make sense in real life. But at some point you have to say, no, save some of this for the next thing.
Yeah.
Like, these are the 3 or 4, whatever, 2 or 3 things that you're really focusing on. And like some of the greatest films this year, they really build those things in. Like Knives Out and Parasite and like some of these other films, like Invisible Man that just came out, where like these small little things are just staple points of like what's happening, and they don't go far beyond that. They just like let it continue to loop in those ideas.
So,
So
what is your opinion of trying to have an arc in a short? Like, because I mean, that's basically what I attempted with
I think
it.
it's one of the hardest challenges I think any filmmaker can probably even come across, because it's like you have such a short amount of time to get to know a character and then feel for the character and then see this character change and
Yep.
then like feel a certain way about the change that's being made,
Yeah.
that the most successful short films I've ever seen have been the ones that have honestly been the
They're
simplest,
just tones,
which is,
basically,
I guess so. I'm trying to think back,
or punchline
but
shorts, which are
I know
basically
even
just a
for
tone.
writing and directing, that's always the biggest challenge. Is I'm like, I can't tell if I'm just trying to tell a story real quick in this small amount of time, or
Yeah.
if I'm actually like, or if people are actually feeling what's happening.
Yeah. I feel like that, like when I notice that's why a lot of people gravitate toward this in a lot of short films, is you see something happening in the moment. You just catch a segment in time, and then like the reveal usually ends up being what led them there.
Yeah.
Like
Or
in
yeah.
a lot of short films, it's almost like the safe way to go, but like it's like how it's basically comes down to how interesting of a story can you lead up to this, and like how were you not expecting this to end up here, like them to end up in this spot in time.
Right.
Like I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's like one tiny segment of like good short films, but I think that for the point is that like simplicity is the game. Like you just like take a tiny idea and just like push that as far as you can go without doing too much. Because like
creative can you be simple?
Yeah, like I mean, we had how many locations and setups and shit for this fucking short film that like it was absurd. And I don't know that any of us really discussed cutting things down necessarily, but did we? I don't know. Did I lose you, Aaron? You're frozen.
I'm not very sure. The only thing that really... What's that?
Aaron was frozen.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm here.
The only thing I know that usually happens, if there's nothing cut down by the time of production, the first thing to usually go are just like camera moves that just don't need to exist. Not necessarily story things.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, can we praise a little bit the camera move that we kept, which was that added that Kickstarter added the screen thing that came out so well,
yeah.
dude. I picture that was like the first thing that I wrote before the story even made any sense and before the characters were who they were. I wrote that like transition because I thought that would be cool, and I was like, I could maybe do that. And then you had the Dana Dolly, coincidentally, that you bought like right around the same time. That came out exactly how I pictured it. I loved that whole shot.
Which is funny because I think when you had your initial edit, you were like, I don't know if this is gonna work once I put the screen replacement in. The worst you can do is at least try and see. But
I had a couple people ask me like, how did you do that? How is that even? It doesn't make any sense because it's like you're in the Kickstarter, or you're in the video, you're watching his face, and then you're all of a sudden like you're dollying back, but then all of a sudden you're on a screen, and then it's so seamless. It worked so well, and I want to like recycle that idea at some point because I think it was a really cool way to set up and transition into the world.
Yeah, very smooth.
Yeah.
Really solid transition.
Wasted
and
on
that
this
is
film.
Definitely one of the things that now I'm remembering was improved from the first draft to the latest one, because that was a little different the way you had it.
Was it?
Like the whole movie start.
Oh, I think at some point I cut it out because for time's sake, and it just like wasn't enough. But I cut the Kickstarter thing in half, and did I? I don't even know. At this point, there's been so many drafts.
You cut that whole scene down.
Well, I cut
office.
I cut the Kickstarter thing almost out entirely in the second to last draft, and then I brought it back for a little bit more of the setup. But I think it actually might be back entirely now. And then you get, instead of the laptop, I think when he slams the laptop, we cut to the office where he's setting up the whippet. I don't remember, man. All I know is that that transition was super cool, and like AJ, it worked great. I'm so glad that we did that. I'm so glad we had the Dana Dolly.
Yeah, the other time we used it was to push in for the torture scene, right?
We used it in South Carolina too for when the characters were when Henry and Natalie were like seeing the Ferris wheel for the first time.
That's right. That was
Yeah.
like the last thing, one of the last things we
It
shot.
was the last, yeah, or maybe we ran over to the tunnel. I don't remember which one was last, but that was a shot that I had in my head from the very beginning, was that push in on the torture scene, like that very like center Wes Anderson kind of like awkward slow push. I love that shot, and I think that to me was like that was the image of the short film. If I had to pick one image to like describe what the film was, it was that image. It was like that kind of weird tone, like not sure if it's serious, not sure if it's a joke, but it's kind of tense still. I like that. And I didn't really get that across in the whole film, but that moment I think worked really well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Hi, Rachel.
Say hi to Rachel.
Hi, Rachel.
She can't hear you, but...
Oh, sorry.
But you're fine.
Okay,
I actually
so
have to use the bathroom so bad, but keep talking and
Go ahead.
I will jump back in.
AJ,
All right.
what are you working on? What's going on? We talked a bit about your script that you're writing that you've been working on for a while.
Yeah.
What have you been
Right
doing
now,
since we wrapped? Actually, let's start there. What have you been doing since we worked together in April last year? Like, what are some exciting projects you've
A
done?
year ago, right?
Yeah.
I did a few. Well, I worked on a music video with Jesse. No.
Well, a few of them actually. We worked.
Yeah, it's also true.
I'm really glad you guys are.
Stand.
I'm really glad you guys are
sure.
collaborating often. That's really cool.
I honestly, I got back to the agency stuff. I did some overseas, I say overseas, but did some stuff down in Mexico for the hotel market again.
What seas are you
Did
over?
some stuff in San Francisco, went to Texas, traveled a little bit for a different agency where we do more like, just more info, humanitarian, stuff. I'm wrapping up a edit for a documentary right now, which is taking up a lot of my time. And wrapping up some edits for some new clients that I had. But trying to make some time to write some video games a la Animal Crossing have maybe taken up a little bit of that time.
Jesse was
recently.
talking about this before you got on.
Yeah, right.
He texted me yesterday. He's like, "Hey, what's your fruit? I'm trying to sell some stuff." So I wanted to visit my town yesterday to make a sale.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. These are words that I
So
know.
many memes. I'm like,
To be honest, it is nice after like a long time of just hustling to finally take some time for myself. It's almost like to begin the reboot, because I've also, despite wanting to work on other projects, like we were talking about working on this feature and writing it and going through that whole phase, despite all that, like I've learned so much in the last few years about like building a business and working with people and learning to like say no to people and projects, or like what to
no budget
what to
short
work
films.
on, what's my style, what's my like all these things. And it is nice to just finally take a moment to not necessarily reflect, but to just like, yeah, I guess so, just to think about everything and like ingrain that new stuff into who I am now.
Yeah.
And to have a break, because I think a lot of us are very go, 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 and then we forget to finally give ourselves a moment to like catch back up and to just recognize like who we are now versus back then. So
Yeah.
I think in this past year, I've been on a lot of projects. I've been rushing around. I have the blueberry season over the summer and all this other stuff, and I'm just finally at this point where I'm glad I'm giving myself a break, a well-needed break. I think the work I'm doing now in terms of my edit is better than it ever has been, and way more focused, not so scatterbrained thinking about 20 projects at once.
Yeah.
And as I wrap up these projects, I've been putting more work and time into my stuff, which has been nice.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm glad to hear that, because like I remember when I met you, when Aaron introduced us, you and I talked about your feature, and because Aaron was like pushing you to finish it or to start it, or maybe one of the, I don't even remember if it
to
was
start it.
to start it.
Aaron
Yeah.
would text me out of nowhere and be like, "Yo, do your thing and do it." I'm like, I appreciate that, but at the same time, too, I can't just do it if it's not ready, or I don't have the budget in the bank, or, you know,
Right.
it's not
I
the
was
right
just
time.
like, I was like exploding
Yeah.
at the seams. I just moved back after just like such a shitty experience for a couple of years of just like not being
Yeah.
happy and feeling like I was stuck somewhere. I'm like, this is it. Like I can be like involved with the production in an area with the right people that I want to be involved in. I'm like, how do we start this
And
now? I
don't think there's no reason not to still continue to be excited, because I'm sure between all of us working on stuff, there's a whole bunch of opportunity out there. But for me too, it's still like, yeah, you can't wait forever, but also I don't like rushing something, because when you spend a year even like coming up with a concept or like really working out all the kinks in something, to me it's like the last thing I ever want to do is like say, shit, well, I need to get it into production, and then like waste all that time that I just spent on this gorgeous thing that's supposed to be my next, big project after having worked for X amount of years. But at the same time, you need to have a push.
Yeah.
And I think without, as we were talking about before, about film school and the school curriculum, or somebody that says like it needs to be done by this time or no matter what, you know, no ifs, ands, or buts.
Yeah.
Like, not having that is a little tough, because sometimes my mind will go at the end of the day to like, yeah, I'll just relax tonight instead of doing some work.
Yeah.
So I think I'm at that next phase though, where once I finally get some of these other things situated for myself, like now that I'm rebranding and like coming up with, finally working on my reel, finally working on my website, and finally like breaking everything into the spots that I wanted to, like actually physically doing work on that stuff. It's been nice, and I know that I'm feeling better or more grounded as a professional, and especially once all this stuff launches, then I'm, I think I'm back to Anthony or AJ 2.0, like ready to take things on again. So it's been a nice lull on things, though. I think for everybody during this situation, anyway.
To tie that idea though into the conversation about the short films, like I do kind of wish that I'd spent a little bit more time writing or rewriting and preparing for doing something, or just gave myself more time before we actually did the production. But at the same time, like I'm so happy with how things went.
Yeah, sorry, continue, my bad.
Like, yeah, it's like you have to have a balance between like waiting long enough and not waiting too long, right? Because like giving the idea time to percolate, but also not waiting forever, because you'll never do it. And the things that you'll learn, I get with a feature, it's way different, because like I would hate to have to like spend a month shooting with people to ultimately have a draft that you like can't actually, or you're not comfortable publishing. That would suck. But
yeah, that's very true. For a short film, I think I'd push myself a little farther, and there's definitely been a thought in my mind that maybe to get myself back to more narrative stuff, I should probably do another short, or even if it's a short, like 7 to 8 minutes.
Yeah.
Just to kind of like brush things up again and make sure I'm not forgetting anything that I've learned. But I mean, on your end though too, it's a blessing and a curse, the fact that you're so far away. Because I think having to come back here, like you're forced. Like you buy that plane ticket and you pick those dates, and like that's it.
There was no changing my mind after that point.
Let's move it by another week or two.
Yeah, I think I bought so we shot in April. I arrived in March, but I bought the tickets I think in January, or in February. So once I bought the tickets, and it was like 24 hours later, and you couldn't refund them, I was like, well, this is happening. I'm committed.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Like, you do have to pull the trigger at some point. You just got to do it, or you have to have someone that pushes you to do it, which I think, is important.
What about like this dream idea you have, AJ? Like, what about doing a short version of that, or a section of that, just to like get practice and like get the feel for it, like that, and just so you have beginning to end, for like not necessarily the whole story, but just like how they did with Saul
section.
Or like just as a proof of concept, you know?
Yeah.
I think that
to get yourself more motivated for it. Us motivated for you.
Concept out of it, where it would be more like, okay, if I was going to make it a portion of the film, I would probably want to do more like a fake trailer or proof of concept for it, so that at least I know I can see how multiple parts of it would work out. But for me too, and this is just in complete honesty, I don't want to start more projects in production that are mine until I know that what I'm connected to right now is also wrapped up. Not necessarily the edits I'm working on for clients, because that just is built into my schedule, but also like, and I don't know how many of you guys know this, but I shot a feature film with my good friend Josh that I did in New York a good number of years ago. And what happened was we finished the entire feature up until the end at that location, which when we edited it too, and it's
The
all put
restaurant?
together.
The restaurant location? Is this the film that you showed me?
I don't know what I showed you. It starts with a restaurant, but then the rest of it's an apartment. But
The
I
brunch
can
one.
share it
It's
with
not the
you if
brunch
you
one,
wanna
is it?
wa- What's that?
It's not the brunch film, is it?
No.
Okay.
Oh no.
Okay.
He's working with other producers right now to actually remake that on like a $1 million scale. So
Wow.
we'll see what happens. But he got lucky with that, and he's just
Yeah,
pushing forward.
super
still.
lucky.
But this whole thing screwed him up too. So, but I did a feature. It's cut. It's at 1 hour and 6 minutes right now. And what happened was we filmed this right around Thanksgiving a few years ago. Finished everything we needed in this one location, and we were like, okay, well, we need to film the end in springtime. And it was a co-director situation. It was me and my good friend Josh that I talk about a lot. And Josh and I were still working on agreeing on what the ending was. And springtime came around, and we were like, we need to lock this up. We need to get a location for this and that, and we need to get the actor in and this. And I kept telling Josh, if we don't get it done this spring, it's never going to get done ever. Because I just know you don't want to wait another year to try and make it work again. Who knows what happens?
Right.
And that's exactly what happened. We didn't get it done that spring, and we've never been able to pick it back up or get the actor to come in or make something work. He had some life changes. Like, we had some life changes. We're on different projects. We're doing other things. So what we just agreed on about a month ago was we took the whole film, because it's like a kind of like a horror film. We took the whole film and we divided up into 5 sections, and what we shot already ends on a cliffhanger. So we were like, let's just take it, let's divide it up, let's finish it off and put it up on Amazon Prime or anywhere that we can just at least like let it live.
Yeah.
So that, we only made it for $3,000. Like,
wow.
We used all my equipment, and the only cost we had was paying for some people to come help out on crew, which was honestly 1 or 2 people. And Josh and I shot it and directed it and did audio all by ourselves for the most part.
Wow.
And we were like, we should just put it out there. The whole idea of this thing was supposed to be a test of our ability. We literally wrote the whole thing in 30 days, and we shot it directly after we were done those 30 days. We shot it within I think 10. I think we shot it in 10 days straight. We took maybe 1 day off.
That's crazy.
But it was a good time. I'm pretty happy with it for what it is. I really also do love the concept. So there's a good part of me that is like, man, if I wasn't interested in doing my other projects right now,
yeah,
I would have loved to have come back to this and just started from scratch and did it like real budget, like real crew, bigger house, not like this tiny apartment in New York. But for me, it's like I should probably, in order for me to feel comfortable, I just need to know that that's done and like gonna go somewhere before I really hit the record button on another production, because that's the last thing I want is like continue to have like other projects just like stack up in the background.
Yeah.
That would be nice to be out there, because honestly, that not that it would be a calling card by me or for me by any means, but I think it would be a cool like, hey, this is what I did after my thesis film, and this is the type of stuff I love to do. We have some cool effects in there and all this other stuff. So yeah. I
would love to see it if you want to, if you can share it.
To do it. Yeah, it's a neat idea.
Cool.
And then once that's situated, which hopefully will be situated either by the end of this month or the beginning of next month, because everything's shot and edited now. Just some like final remarks, final VFX, and sound design. We're done. So
cool.
we'll see what happens.
So
Yeah.
so and you're still writing during this time, because like we talked about swapping scripts at some point soon, like your feature script and
Yeah.
my. No.
I'm writing at. Oh shoot! I forgot all about this business thing.
You have to go.
Yeah, I'm still writing.
Oh yeah.
What's that?
You guys have to go.
No, I have something. I have to reply to Patrick actually.
Oh yeah, you should do that. Yeah, I'm still writing during this time. I think I'm more in this like, I don't know what sort of phase I like to call it in, but more like solidifying ideas, like just finally putting the cement on the bricks, so that I feel comfortable with like where things are at before I really do like a huge bulk. Because when I write, usually, especially for narrative stuff, I need to feel super comfortable with where everything is, and then I'm just gonna disappear for like 5 or 6 days straight, and then come out with like, as near or as close to what I would assume the final product would be right out the bat. And that's just the way I work or
That's
operate.
interesting. Yeah,
So,
I feel like that's not
yeah.
sustainable, but if that's how you work, then that's how you work.
Yeah, right. everybody's different. For
Yeah.
me, it's like I'm doing all the rewrites, like moving stuff around and making that stuff happen in my head and thinking about it nearly every day, to the point where by the time it's like it's ready to go, then just comes the big jump. So yeah.
Cool, man. I'm really looking forward to reading it once you've taken the time to retreat and write it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sorry, I mean, just,
Eddie,
just up here.
you got anything
I
brewing?
forgot.
Yeah, man. Yeah, always. But I want to hear what Jesse's doing first. Jesse, so you were starting an agency at the time that we were like starting to get to know each other. Has that like taken off, or are you guys still doing that? It was you and Ryan?
So, okay.
Sorry.
So I did end up starting a company, but not with Ryan.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so my friends Brad and Joe in the band Dry Jacket, I've made like a bunch of music videos for them. I'm not sure if you know that.
I've heard of. I don't think I've seen probably your videos for them.
Okay, but yeah, like about like May, June last year, we started talking about like wanting to make a company, and then we just slowly started making a company, and then we LLC'd December 31st, and then we started to get a couple potential clients, and then the world ended. So we're in a hole.
Wait, why did you decide to do it on December 31st?
Preach.
Do you have to like file taxes for 2019 if you do that?
We looked into it. We technically don't.
Okay, okay, that's weird. Right, you don't have anything to file.
Yeah.
I also think like your first.
We
No, go ahead.
But we wanted to start like actually on the 1st of the year, like to really get things going.
Yeah.
And because of how long things take to get approved, to get like your EIN and everything, we kind of just like, all right, let's just do it today, which happened to be the 31st.
Okay.
So we can get everything as fast as possible.
So
maybe
you
it
were
wasn't
like,
as smart.
new business, new exciting opportunities. Then you were like, oh, quarantine, cool, great.
Yeah, exactly, pretty much. But we we did a few projects together. Like we did a music video in September. Aaron actually helped out. We did a Dry Jacket video for them in January, I guess, or February.
This is February.
Yes. Yeah, so that's everything with the agency stuff. But before that, most of last year was just like the year of music videos for me. Like I had like 10 music videos, which is the most I've ever had in a year.
That's a lot, man. That's like once per month almost.
Yeah, it was kind of crazy, and the biggest one was the early November one, which almost killed me.
Yeah, well, actually, I want to end this stream because I do want to hear about that, but let me cut this stream off because it's like, I don't know how long it's gonna go on for. Well, yeah, I don't know. I don't have to sign off anything.
It's like a Joe Rogan
no one's
podcast.
watching this, so I'm gonna.